We should be live now.
Alrighty. 15 minutes. Can we get to 27?
Yeah. Oh, that is my feedback on my on
Well,
my
at least we know
phone.
we're live.
Yeah, we know we're live. Uh, I have to have my phone off to the side for stream chat because otherwise I have to
Yep.
toggle back and forth between two windows.
Oh, I get that. That's why I stopped streaming, among other things. But
Yeah,
good on you for still doing it, Coveted. We really appreciate it.
it's always fun. I enjoy getting to run through the deck lists. I enjoy getting to kind of give my 2 cents.
Absolutely.
And getting to have a guest join along with me like you or Dr. Chipmunk, always a blast.
I'm happy I was available. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
it could not have been on a better day. My wife is at her folks for the weekend with them, and it's a weekend night essentially. So
Yeah.
it's perfect timing.
Very much stars aligning in that way. Bummer we couldn't have Chip. One day we'll get to do something along the lines of like a 3-person volley. That'll be hopefully not too chaotic, but
No, I think it can work out well. I
I,
think we
I
can
think
get
it could
that
work
done.
well.
I will say this is a special Grand Prix for you, though. So I'm
Yes, it
sure you're
is.
particularly excited.
I'm feeling very fluttery about it.
Valier has been phenomenal so far in terms of hype, honestly. I keep rereading the set over on the LackyBot site, and there's just so many cool cards in it.
Yeah, I'm finding ways in which I might have pushed things a little too hard or been a little too cautious, but that's just the general experience with design, right?
I will say, look, we're not Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
We're not like one dedicated team making sets. We're individual designers creating sets for a format, and you go through field test or you do your play testing, you catch what you can. And let's be honest, the first month of a Grand Prix, the first month of League, even the first week, right out of release, and the curator team doing all the work to pick up the obvious things, but that's your playtest week. This
Oh yeah.
is this is what it is. So I think there's really on the first month of a set's release, I think it's really like that's your playtest. And the month after you clean up the stuff, and then usually it's in a pretty good spot. And I mean, I think it's already in a good spot. So
Mistakes you make in the first month don't count, Chip says. Don't look at the June 2025 ERR patch. Well, see, here's the thing. Like, I am fully aware month 2 patches tend to be decently sizable just because, like, that is when things get addressed.
uh-huh. And let's be
Um,
and we've discussed that. I think we I talked to you in DMs about it. I mean, Worlds Away and MSEM famously, I think like 75% of the set has been hit. So, you're doing all right when there's a few things to change. That's okay. I think that's totally fine,
yeah,
and I think it's just par for the course. Um, yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, you want a set that has things that are exciting. You want to have a set that has things that people want to play with and want to give it a try. And I think you nailed it. I think you have some really interesting stuff going on. And I'm really excited to see these in action here on the Grand Prix. League has been great, obviously. I mean, I've been doing a lot of the commentary, but Grand Prix is usually the a really nice test. Open deck lists, you know what to prepare for. People are sideboarding correctly, and so I'm really excited for this, and then we'll keep an eye on all the rest, and we'll see how it goes into the next month. So
yeah.
there's a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, there are things I have messed around with a little bit, just mostly goldfishing. There's a couple things that I've taken into League. There are so many things I have not gotten around to building.
Mhm.
I've said this all in the like Rev chats before as well. That like there are decks I've like tinkered around with where I think I just haven't quite figured out the right count.
Mhm.
I'll pull up. Let me pull up Escape from Limbo real quick, because one card that I really, really want to figure out how to break is Call of the Grove. It is just such a Timmy build around nonsense ramp card.
I have never seen this card in my life. This is not one that I remember. Oh,
Prior
wait a second. No,
to
that's not true. That's not true. Hold up. This is the one that is top five. Never mind. I
top
have seen
five,
this one.
yes. Prior
Top
to
five
this
and just
month,
yeah.
prior to this month, this was 3 and triple green, but it didn't trigger on enter. I
Uh-huh.
rallied for this to work on enter, uh, and was totally fine with it jumping up to 7 to compensate for that because 6
hmm
mana cheat something in is gonna get a little unhealthy.
hmm
Um, but
I think seven
uh,
mana is the right spot for it here.
yeah,
This looks really fun.
really, really silly perpetual engine, and specifically thinking about it in the context of all of the adventure spirits from Solstice, because every single adventure creature in Solstice is 7 mana
Spirit.
or more, and
And yeah,
all of them are spirits.
that's true. It's funny. I was just talking to Scribble about that. How I love that they're all big. I love that
Yeah,
that's really the defining thing. It's not like there wasn't like half-hearted here's a 4-drop, here's a 3-drop with an adventure. It's no, these are big things. And yeah, they're all spirits. That's totally true. Um oh, that's really interesting actually.
Chip just really perfectly summed it up. It's like grand consonants, but it gets worse cards and fewer of them, and requires more deck building. So it's
But if
almost
it still
perfect for it's
works,
perfect for Ricky if Ricky really wanted to play the worst possible version of grand consonants. I say
yep.
that, but also I absolutely adore this card. One of my favorite goofy little pet cards from my set. And there's even just like some of the green adventure creatures are really, really good. Alwinor the Humbled Star, 2 mana
hmm
mana dork, sets up a 10 mana 10/10, and when you cast it, you get another 10/10 along with.
hmm
Um, you get Rex Tyrannos, the 7 mana 7/5, with like just a cheap 1 mana sorcery card selection. Go find a creature or land from your top 3. And it's
Yeah,
when you put it into play, it's a 7/5 with trample, like to just cheat another creature from your hand, tapped and attacking whenever it swings in. Like just green alone
that's
has
true.
some of the better spirits to be playing
I mean,
alongside this.
the creature side is not as big, but yeah, Ursus Majora is also a
Oh yeah.
kind of like an explorer, but it's basic only, but still draw a card, put a basic land.
Yeah, and we've
It
we've
does. Oh,
seen basic only explore C play before in Rev. Flourish and Calamity way back in the initial 6
hmm
sets with Grief Quaking City. Flourish and Calamity really good. Um, that has an upside versus Ursus Majora, where if you mill it over, you get to
hmm
recast it as the big creature, and you get to do the explore again when you recast it from your graveyard. But I still think Ursus Majora is a really solid body. I think it's a more relevant body than Flourish and
It's.
Calamity was.
I didn't realize that the basic land that enters is untapped.
Untapped, yeah, that's another really
That's
big thing.
interesting.
So if you have 1 extra mana for the main thing you were looking to play, and you have a
Yep.
basic in your hand, you can weave in Ursus Majora plus the thing you are looking to play. And one of the other big things that's on my mind is trying to see if there are spirits from Innistrad Witching Hour to like weave into this package, namely one that you have seen me play a little bit already. Just getting it pulled up on Escape from Limbo here. Cloistered Haunt.
Yes. Yeah, 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 yeah. Big fan.
Bully people with very greedy mana bases. Keep
I'm
people
very
from
impressed with
repeated
that creature.
spells. Yeah, I think
Being 4
especially
toughness is relevant, and well, actually, all parts of it are relevant.
yeah. Um especially with concerns about how strong rebels are with just
Yep.
constantly repeating a bunch of spells all in the course of the same turn.
hmm
This is going to be decently good at blocking rebels, especially in earlier turns. It's going to be hard to get it out before the first couple rebels hit play, but it really is turns 3 onwards where rebels start really scaling harder and harder and harder and
hmm
harder. And like this just gets to swing in over top of all of them, makes any duels they're running enter tapped always,
hmm
keeps them from getting more than 1 muster trigger every turn.
It's just a good package, honestly.
Yeah,
And 3 mana is a very. It's still low enough that this is coming out fast enough to do like to have an impact. So.
yeah. I know one of the big conversations this month has been how strong Rosen is,
hmm
which not going to dispute that. Rosen is nuts. But I think one of the other big reasons to be in green white, especially for a Huskforger Acolyte deck right now, is getting Cloistered Haunt on turn 2.
hmm
That is so strong. It is something that I've even found myself thinking about where one of the best reasons to go Naya, one of the best reasons to go red-green in any capacity in my mind,
Mm-hmm.
is for an encounter.
Mm-hmm.
I was my very first GP promo, my only GP promo, because I think that card is really good. It is really, really great for consistency. It's really great to apply additional pressure. And especially with Huskforger, it is entirely possible that you get to for an encounter on turn 2, flip one of the 3 mana creatures from your top 6 into play with a +1/+1 counter, cycle it if you're just trapped with it and you don't have any way to cast it in the early turns. You just need to dig deeper. So it's got the full package in that way. And getting to play it in Naya and spin into a 2/5 Cloistered Haunt off of a turn 1 Huskforger.
I was just about to say 2/5 is a terrifying body.
That's
to have on
that's a
turn 3.
very,
or
very
turn
real
2,
stat
actually,
line.
as we're talking about.
Very real stat
kidding.
line. So it's super, super fun. Yeah, it's.
I think like the 5 toughness is even more relevant, because I mean we're seeing like Burn to Obscurity being run in some lists for that 4 damage breakpoint, but
yeah.
5 is just up there. I mean, what do you have? Wanton, maybe Wanton Display can deal with it if you've got something savage out, but I mean otherwise 2/5 survives the sweeps, right? Survives Nightfall.
It survives pretty much every toughness based sweeper we have, barring the 5 mana red Defender, which is not really seeing play.
So it's Board Wiper.
Chip does point out electronic countermeasures does deal with 5 toughness creatures, but countermeasures kind of fell off after it stopped being able to hit battles. The other one on my mind is Stellar Flare. With folks being really concerned about 1 mana value creatures, specifically being very concerned about Chapel Crasher outscaling, Strangle and whatnot. Stellar Flare, 1 mana, deal 5 to a 1-drop. It kind of feels bad to be burning a 5 damage burn spell on a 1-drop, but when that 1-drop is a 5/5 because they have cast 4 other rebels after it, it does kind of do the job.
Yeah. Honestly, true.
So, but yeah, definitely a month where I feel very confident in either the like cheap sweepers that you could just get online as soon as possible, or the toughness agnostic sweepers. Stuff like Beyond Comprehension,
which is pretty much our only 4 mana just generic sweep all creatures, right? I think all the other ones have like some little catch. There's like a monocolored, multicolored one from Clicks, right? And then there's a few other ones, but I think Comprehension is the main nuke all creatures, right?
Yeah, that is the main nuke all creatures. I do still really like the one from Clicks of Nylon. Just gonna pull it up real quick. Chromatic Rift.
Oh, I guess and I guess there's Exit. I don't know if I've seen.
I'm not a big
Exit
fan of Exit
anytime soon. Yeah, I don't like it either. I don't like telegraphing what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I'm not a big. The one telegraphed sweeper that I really do like right now is usually so much better at remembering card names.
That's all right.
Atomic Core. Because it's not a telegraphed not a telegraphed
that's
sweeper
a bit
for the
different.
most part.
That's a bit different.
It's a telegraphed sweeper if you're just like building it up to try and pop like 2-drops or something. But otherwise, I think of it as primarily a really, really strong mana rock that sometimes is also just screw target tokens player.
Yep.
And with how good tokens look right now, it's pretty reasonable.
I agree. I've had to design something like this similarly and told Midnight a few years ago. So big fan of all these kind of cards, honestly.
I think we are at 27. We got Roboka in here. Can we get 28?
With seconds left on the clock here.
Seconds left on the clock. It sounds like Tremor is trying to get in here to make it 28. 60 main deck, 16 in the sideboard. Oh, it's in the inn. Turned a 2 of sideboard card into a single to get in as the 28th deck in the field. It's not showing up for me, but
I just refreshed. I'm not seeing it yet.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Also, I see Fleet talking about specifically Fabricated Anomaly plus Cloistered Haunt. And Chip just pointing out Fabricated Anomaly makes all other creatures better, which, yeah. Though I do like the idea of low power, high toughness creatures alongside Fabricated Anomaly. There's
Mhm.
this past January, I almost registered a 3 mana 0/3 with flying and haste, where it has an attack trigger that has the defending opponent either discard a card or take 3. I almost registered that specifically because I was a black-red Fabricated Anomaly deck, and I was like, well, this thing just gets a counter from Anomaly for free.
Oh, I know the issue is you were already in. Tremor was already in.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Tremor's
Tremor
like 1,
was
2, 3,
already in.
4,
I see
5.
it.
You're number 7. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, there we go. That would explain it. So yeah,
All
we're still
right,
at 27.
Cool. That's okay. 27's a
Oh no, we are at
fantastic
28. CFT sucks sneaking in there, trying to get the 3 for 3. What do you think the over/under is on CFT Sock playing blue-red tempo for a third month?
High. I don't think I've seen CFT Sock. Have they been playing anything in League recently?
I do not believe so. I
and
don't
if
know
the
how
deck,
much CFT Sock has been playing. Also, yeah, Elite Point called out the card I was referring to, Ascended Zealot. I believe that is. Can you hear me?
you're all good. Absolutely.
All right. Yeah, Ascended Zealot was the card I was referring to that I almost played in January. I do think this card is really cool. I just don't love the optional discard. I would almost like it more if it was more shaped in the vein of the like 4-drop from Cyberos, where it's swing in, opponent has to discard, then if they can't, they lose 3.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously that would just be profoundly irritating.
Okay, real quick. I'm playing PTM.
Oh boy.
No, no. Well, you'll see why. Anyway,
let's get the stream text gone. We are no longer waiting on decks. So, you versus PTM, Leet versus Volt Switch.
You're against Provocative.
It has been so long since I've had a round 1 matchup against Provocative. I almost have to check right now, just out of curiosity. Is this mono green? It's not. Prov has failed me.
I haven't looked yet. So
it's not mono green.
All right, I'm about to click the button.
Spared the mono green stompy matchup. All right.
Okay.
So I guess we'll just dive right into the deck lists.
Yeah. So top to bottom, just with how they show up, or
top to bottom, starting with Scribble, who has lived long enough to become the PTM. This is black-red mid-range, it looks like. Something that I know yes. PTM has been jamming a lot of and putting a lot of respect into. This is a black-red creature, just beat them down, remove their things deck. Starting off the curve with a playset of Exorcist Errors to pressure the opponent's hand. 2/3 stat line, just still so premium on your 2 drops. Yep. Though a little bit more awkward now that we have Strangle around, so there is 1 mana ways to check Exorcist a little bit more reliably. Pair of Profane Invokers, a newcomer from Innistrad Witching Hour, 3 mana 3/2 hasty human shaman werewolf that lets you discard your hand to draw 2 whenever it enters or transforms into its front side, and whenever it attacks on its back side as a 4/3, you get to exile an instant or sorcery from your graveyard that costs 2 or less and play a copy of it for free rather. A trio of Sunset Champion, a 4 mana 4/4 Snake Rebel with Trample from our other new set, Valir. That just whenever it enters or attacks, Titan Trigger, Impulse to draw the top card of your library until your next turn. That 4-drop is joined by a playset of Lifehacker, pretty familiar staple at this point.
Yep.
And then at the top of the creature curve is 2 copies of the new Feudrak of Ashmouth, 2 and triple red for a 4/5 flying hasty dragon, legendary dragon. When Feudrak enters, he gives target creature +2/+0 until end of turn, and whenever you attack, doesn't even have to require Feudrak attacking if you can't for some reason. Feudrak deals X damage to up to 1 target creature or planeswalker, where X is the difference between target creature you control's power and base power. So even if you have something that's just sitting back and can't really necessarily swing in, if it's just wearing like a decently sized stat buff, Feudrak can still fire off. If Feudrak can't attack, but you can still swing in, you can still get the Feudrak attack trigger. Very Glorybringer shaped. Obviously not amazing compared to Glorybringer, specifically in the context that you can't have multiple in play. But when you're on 2 copies, I think the odds of having both in hand is pretty low. And I don't think you're really in a ton of agony if you do wind up with both copies in hand.
Big fan of that card. I know PTM's very happy to get a beefy 5-drop dragon into the format. So
Oh yeah. Yeah, Leet points out it attacks for 6 the turn you play it and shocks something.
Yep.
It's really good. 11 instants, all removal here.
Yep.
2 copies of Twilight Ambush and 3 copies of the new Blade Flourish. 1 mana instant that deals 2 to any target. Excess damage dealt to a creature or planeswalker this way is dealt to its controller instead. A little bonus trampling shock if you shock down a 1 toughness creature. Sort of a mirrored image of Bleeding Out, which they're on a playset of. Double red for 3 damage, exactly the same way. Instant speed, tramples over creatures and planeswalkers. And then 2 copies of Sovereign's Execution to round out the removal suite. 2 mana instant deal with any creature or planeswalker you could choose from. And if you've lost or gained life in the turn, you don't have to worry about losing 3, but if you haven't, this does ding you for 3 in the process.
This deck can handle the 3 life loss if it's on life hackers and whatnot. So
yeah, absolutely. And life hacker mitigates the life loss here. If you've gained life or paid life to life hacker already in the turn,
exactly,
the vigor is online, so you don't have to worry about losing the life. And then finally, for enchantments, there is a playset each of Shigani Manor Burns, just one of the best workhorse cards in the format.
And if you're trying to cast these 4-drops, these 5-drops, I mean, there's almost no better way than starting off with a turn 2 manor, getting that early treasure token.
Absolutely.
Going, you're just ahead on the curve, and yeah, good luck to your opponent then.
Yeah. There's also a playset of Advance of Fire and Faith, so another little bit of burn here. Not too dissimilar in shape to Bleeding Out. Obviously can't point 3 damage to an opponent, but can, deal 2 to a creature, 1 to the face, or the other way around, deal 1 to a creature, 2 to the face, if you're just trying to sort of get that trample over effect similar to a Bleeding Out. So really good consistency there. And then 2 copies of Crumbling Tower for some additional card advantage alongside Life Hacker and Sunset Champion and Profane Invoker. There's a lot of dig in a deck like this.
There's a lot of eventuality is what I'm seeing, right?
Yeah, the inevitability is very high.
Yeah, that's what inevitability. You got between the manors ticking down on 2 damage, Crumbling Towers, and then pretty much all the creatures, starting with Sunset Champion enough being like really credible threats in their own right. Like this is not a deck you can just, pass go too often. It's gonna chip you out pretty quickly.
Absolutely. Mana base here is 24 lands split across 6 basic mountains and 1 singular basic swamp. There are 3 primal fissures to go find those basics, a pair of erosive paths for early fast duels that you can also cycle, but they come in tapped after turn 2, usually. Temple of Origins for more fast lands, Sanguine Palace as shocks, full playsets of both of those. And then for utility lands, there is 1 copy of Caresoul Observatory, enters tapped if you control a non-mountain land. 2 copies of Karaz Observatory, enters tapped if you control a non-swamp land. So all of these will be untapped turn 1. They're pretty hard to have untapped reliably on turn 2 onwards, though. And then 1 copy of Grip Festivarium to pump some extra red mana into to just get another threat in the land base.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy to see the Karaz Observatory actually being played. The Exile from a Graveyard, I think, if you're following a little bit what League's been doing out, there's been quite a few decks that enjoy having cards in the yard. So, I mean, it's nice to have it just in your main board, in your lands.
Absolutely. That really is one of the things that I think is so predominant right now, is that there's a lot of incidental value coming from the graveyard, but a lot of the decks that are extracting incidental value from their graveyard, it feels like a failing negotiation to dedicate full card slots to specifically hating out those decks. Like, I don't want to board in Graveyard Hate against 8 Terror. I could try and lean on it, but that just doesn't seem like it's going to be the winning recipe to beating out a blue-red Spellslinger deck that just gets to rush out 5/5s or 3/4s with Flying and Haste. So, sideboard here is 1 copy of Sovereign's Execution to go with the 2 in the main, a playset of Duress, Two
Respectable.
copies of Impromptu Exit, really making a declaration to
Yep.
the field does not want to come unprepared for tokens.
Yep.
Playset of Clash at the Shaded Maw, so if really determined to have more graveyard hate against an opponent, this is the graveyard hate of choice here. One additional copy of Crumbling Tower, and then 3 copies of Curse of Searing Ground, our new anti-non-basics hate tool.
Good card.
Yeah. That'll bridge us into my deck. I made sure to get my deck submission in early this time around.
I can't say the same.
I am calling this deck Hot Cocoa. I see any collected company shaped card, and I do always think of it as Cocoa, even though our Cocoa, as we've known it, is Contest Coordinator. I still, a collected company shaped card like Collected Thoughts is Cocoa to me. So if I'm going to be playing a blue-red Collected Thoughts... yeah, I'm playing blue-red Collected Thoughts.
I love it.
Red Cocoa, Hot Cocoa. Easy leap to jump through. This is a blue... I'm calling it blue-red mid-range, but there are some control-y elements here. I just don't really peak above 4 mana much on the curve. I have 6 4-drops, and otherwise everything is much leaner on the curve. I am a blue-red mid-range deck centered around trying to just sling spells, manage the board, eventually just kind of take over and win through card advantage. I have 3 copies each of Dream Physician, 3/4 that we've seen get a lot of use in the hands of CFT Sock. Just solid, annoying body. If the opponent has something to target it and pay the ward cost, they can make me sacrifice it, but they kind of have to point something, so they're usually investing a card anyways.
And let's be honest, I mean, aside from something like a Strangle at 1 mana, some of the removal that are being played is 2 mana. So you're spending 2 and a ward 1. You're paying 3, which is the price of a murder.
So it's very tempo advantageous. I'm getting a mana advantage through this getting removed. And this is being coupled with a trio of Psionic Sages, a card I've been trying to make some sense of for a while, and I do think this rotation has really given us the missing pieces to really glue Psionic Sage together. The big one for me is Thought Scour. Thought Scour is just the thing we needed to really bring Psionic Sage together. 1 mana target player mills 2, and then we draw a card. That gets to put 2 cards into our graveyard alongside it, so Psionic Sage is spoiled for choice. Any other graveyard tools that we have that we might want to lean on, we can get those running as well. There's not a ton of graveyard tools outside of Psionic Sage in this particular build, but Sage is enough pressure on our graveyard by itself to justify having things like Thought Scour to mill ourselves anyways. And cantrips are good. Cantrips just let us get away with some nonsense deck building choices. Alongside the playset of Thought Scours at instant speed, there's also a playset of Lunar Awes for the Bolt roll, just solid removal, 2 mana, deal 3. If it's hitting a permanent that has an activated or triggered ability on the stack, we get to counter that, and it also strips all abilities from that target until end of turn. So I can have more ways to check really troublesome creatures. Will not be getting hit by any particularly annoying enter triggers if I can help it. There's also a trio of Overrule Will as the 2 mana counter spell of choice, only running 3 of these rather than the full playset because Lunar Awe can kind of short up the spaces where I might want additional counter spells. And Lunar Awe just kind of... The goal here was to try and maximize the number of spells that are good off of Psionic Sage and Collected Thoughts triggers and effects. And counter spells that just counter spells are not great with Psionic Sage and Collected Thoughts, which gets a little awkward. So making the concession that Overrule Will, I do want something that plays that role here, but it's not going to be my favorite way to try and have that role addressed. My favorite counterspell to address that is Unravel Thoughts, which I'm on a playset of. Slightly worse Cryptic Command, but if you have less cards in your hand than your opponent, then it's better Cryptic Command because it's 1 mana less.
It's really good. And yeah, this is the kind of card that Psionic Sage manages to get up to one of these.
Psionic Sage getting up to one of these, I can tap down my opponent's board, so that way I can guarantee Sage connects. I can bounce one of my opponent's permanents. I can just cantrip off of the Psionic Sage attack if I really need to. And this is also just really good because I can do any 1 or 2 of those off of Collected Thoughts as well. So not only could Collected Thoughts put a card from my deck into my hand, I can then also cast Unravel Thoughts, bounce something my opponent has, and draw another card from there. But obviously this is also just a pretty great counterspell. So it gives me some more stack control, some more flexibility, does a lot of work with Psionic Sage and Collected Thoughts. For sorceries, I've got a trio of Strangles, because of course cheap creatures are all the rage these days, so having some cheap removal to deal with them, pretty helpful. A full playset of Stargazing to complement the Thought Scours. Stargazing still just really, really good, and the discard here ends up being a little bit of a bonus because I have some incentives to fill my graveyard with Psionic Sage, so things that are just not really doing it in the moment, I can pitch away to get more use out of Stargazing. And then this is also just probably the worst cantrip to hit off of Collected Thoughts and Psionic Sage compared to Thought Scour, because the, discard a card to buy it a second time doesn't work off of Collected Thoughts or Psionic Sage, but in a pinch it is just another cantrip that I can spin into for those effects to get a bit more card advantage, and I'm not going to complain about Psionic Sage's Enter Trigger giving me an opt. And then the last sorcery besides Collected Thoughts is 2 copies of Burn It All Down. One of the other considerations
that's a statement.
one of the other considerations with building this deck, and why I'm calling it mid-range, but I do acknowledge that like there's some control-y elements here. This deck features no creatures with 3 toughness or fewer. So nothing that gets killed by Strangle, nothing that gets killed by Burn It All Down. So I get to get away with playing some main deck Burn It All Downs and having the remainder in my sideboard. So that way I can spin into a Collected Thoughts, burn it all down, clear away any smaller creatures on my opponent's board, and then my Dream Physicians, my Psionic Sages are fine. It also means that I could swing in with Psionic Sage, and if it's already got 2 cards exiled by it, I can replay the Burn It All Down from my graveyard with Psionic Sage and clear away any blockers that might be trying to keep it from getting in. So really helps amp up the board control that I have. Pairs nicely with things like Strangle and Lunar Awe. If I just need to pick off one bigger creature alongside a smaller board, I can pay 3 mana, burn it all down, 1 additional mana, strangle something, pick off a 5 or 6 toughness creature alongside a board of 3 toughness creatures. I really like where 3 mana 3 toughness sweepers are positioned right now. I think it's going to have some matchups where it struggles a little bit, but it's just going to be so reliable in so many of the faster matchups, especially. Yeah, and then, of course, Collected Thoughts, 4 mana sorcery, spin into top 6, 1 to hand, instant or sorcery, mana value 3 or less from the remaining gets to go right onto the stack. And again, the deck has been built very carefully to make sure that I am maximizing hits for Collected Thoughts that are actual tangible hits. So my counter spells are, for the most part, things that have other functionality. Lunar Awe is just a lightning strike. Unravel Thoughts is all of the other modes of Cryptic Command. So pretty reliably going to be able to get something good off of Collected Thoughts. And then, of course, I am calling this mid-range. I'm in red. I'm on a playset of Shigane Manor Burns. Gets me up to Psionic Sage or Collected Thoughts on turn 3. Lets me do something like Dream Physician plus another 2 mana spell. I could Shigane Manor Burns plus Dream Physician on turn 3, and if I have double Shigane Manor Burns in my opener. So much dig, so much incidental damage. This I have found in just goldfishing and just messing around. This gets to kind of just incidentally deal more damage than Dream Physician can in some games. Dream Physician kind of gets to play more of the role of holding down the fort against early creatures, whereas Shigane Manor Burns is the real workhorse, putting them across the finish line for me. Or putting me across the finish line by killing them, rather. 23 lands here. I'm on 4 islands to 2 mountains. Wanted to try and minimize my non-blue mana sources just to maximize the odds of getting to curve out to Dream Physician on 2 without sacrificing the possibility of a turn 2 Shigane Manor Burns. Or a turn 2 Lunar Awe as needed. So to find my lands, I'm on 3 Primal Fissures, and I'm on 2 copies of Meteoric Facade. I am still kind of iffy on some of the ERR fetches, but I do think Meteoric Facade does one thing that I really like, which is just it's got text beyond just going to find a land later on in the game. Additional reach, additional dig. Am I counting on channeling this? Not likely, but if I get to channel it, then I get to channel it, and this is absolutely the kind of deck that can kind of just grind the game down to an absolute resource fest. And if I can push things to those very tight resource battles, Treasures off of Shigani Manor Burns makes this easier to channel. This could be a nice little bullet in my pocket to try and push things across the line. Otherwise, playset of Frostfire Geysers and playset of Temple of Origins for my duels alongside 2 Rousing Paths. I opted on no Shocklands. I think I'm very concerned about burn and aggro and just people bleeding me to death, and the less damage I'm dealing to myself, the better. And 2 copies of Glimmervale Lake as additional utility, as pretty much the only utility lands outside of Meteoric Facade. Not a ton of
pretty
creatures.
good utility land.
Yeah, not a ton of creatures this deck has to copy per se, but this is still just, if we've got a Psionic Sage, this can start doubling up on the Psionic Sage value and applying a lot more pressure together with a Psionic Sage. It's a little awkward to put it alongside Dream Physician because this can make it a bit more frail if they're willing to pay the ward cost, but creature lands are already not the most trivial things to remove at instant speed, so Dream Physician's ward 1 might actually be a boon there.
It's a pretty minimal cost, especially because it untaps, I would say, decently. I mean, maybe in yours, you still got Frostfire, you've got...
Frostfire Geysers, I have 5 fetches to find the mountain turn 1.
Yeah.
I'm not always going to be wanting to find a basic mountain turn 1 per se, but I can just play a Frostfire Geysers tapped on turn 1 and play a turn 2 Glimmervale Lake. So if I have to, I have to, and that just makes things come together a bit more cleanly. Sideboard, I mentioned the additional 2 copies of Burn It All Down. I'm also on 2 copies of Delias Savvy Smuggler for the more grindy matchups. Just if opponents are drawing a bunch of cards, I really just want to bleed them out as quickly as I can. If folks are leaning on things like Life Hacker, if I can try and make the constant drawing they're doing hurt a little bit more, that might be what I need to really help cross the finish line. Other creature in here is 3 copies of Dormant Monstrosity. Additionally, grindy creature, another grindy creature that survives Burn It All Down. I almost put Dormant Monstrosity in the main because it survives Burn It All Down, but I think ultimately I just wanted to be in the side. 3 copies of Flutter as the Graveyard Hate of choice. It's Graveyard Hate I can replay off of the Psionic Sage. In a pinch, it can also just be +1/+1 onto a Psionic Sage when I'm swinging in. And if things are absolutely pressed where I have to play the grindiest match of my life, this is not a terrible impression of Elixir of Immortality.
True.
I know I have heard at least one curator in just this very moment, wherever they are in the world, have their heart stop for a moment. 3 copies of Frag for additional removal and some artifact checking in the process. And then 2 copies of Golden Bloom of the Silenced for just general problem permanence. I don't check battles very cleanly. I don't check enchantments very cleanly. So Golden Bloom gives me a nice bit of flexibility there to round things out.
It's always nice you can name things ahead of time before they become a problem.
So. Oh, yeah. Very, very good anti-combo card as well. I don't know if there are like combos that people have really cracked. I know there's the Life Hacker combo that scares the daylights out of me. But
I felt super silly when I was doing the recording on the commentary, and I'm like, yeah, this looks really good. And then the player went, oh, that goes infinite. And I go, oh, it sure does.
Yep. Yeah. It is something that I convinced myself Life Hacker plus the battle was like, oh, this just decks you. This loses you the game. It's like, no, it draws you a removal spell to deal with your Life Hacker, and then you've created your own inverse ad nauseum.
It's really funny.
It's so ridiculous. Alrighty.
All right. We are deck number 3. We're at Cat and Tree now.
Yeah, red-white token tempo. Don't know what that actually means. Cat has been putting up some solid matches here. Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. You want me to take over reading some of the card names, and then you can fill in the commentary on them as we go?
Sure.
Sweet. Gotta get my voice warmed up here if we're gonna do 27 of these. So
27, I believe. Yeah.
All right. So we've got Cat and Tree's red-white token tempo. I don't know what that actually means. I love deck names. Honestly, it's one of the best parts of reading deck lists is just figuring out what people have called their stuff. Right off the bat, I'm seeing a lot of what you would expect in this sort of deck. This is a deck that we've been seeing played in League. This is a deck that I think we've seen sort of like the elements of this for few seasons, or for a few months now. I mean, a lot of these cards are some classics. They're just being shored up by a few new additions that are actually pretty exciting. So, starting off with 12 creatures, we've got the four of Kitsune Matriarch, who has a slight speed bump was added to this card. Um, I think you would agree. It definitely doesn't stop this card from being good.
Oh, not in the
Um,
slightest.
so can only trigger once each turn. That's fine. We're just going to keep making tokens on every turn anyway. So
Hmm.
Kitsune Matriarch definitely grows enough to be a pretty strong contender. Moving on, we got four copies of Awoken Air, which does a pretty decent Kitsune Matriarch type impersonation, being a 1/2 for one that whenever another creature you control enters, it'll get +1/+0 until end of turn. So might not be a permanent growth, but it's still a decent growth. And if you control three or more vampires, it gets menace until end of turn. There's not really a lot of other vampire makers, but you might notice that Awoken Air comes with its built-in vampire maker. So could happen. I think you're pretty much playing it just for the fact that pretty much on every turn that you're swinging with it, this is a 2/2 or bigger, because this one does not say once each turn, right? So,
Yeah. I have also found that uh, though this is the only vampire or vampire maker in the deck to my knowledge, it is entirely possible for you to just spit out a couple vampires over a couple turns. If the game
yep.
gets forced to a halt, this comes off the top when you're at five lands. You play Awoken Air, make a 1/1.
Hmm.
Following turn, you make another 1/1. This already has menace.
Yep. And if you've already got two copies of Awoken Air on the battlefield, you create one and then both of them are turned on and you're
Absolutely.
off to the races. Third card here should not be a surprise for anybody who's watched Revolution since this card released. This is Fabricated Anomaly. It's eaten quite a few changes. It is still a phenomenal card. It still does phenomenal things. I love everything about this card. It's a 2/3 for 3. When it enters, you get to create the puzzle box, the legendary artifact token that lets you tap to rummage. And whenever a creature you control attacks, you can exile a number of cards from your graveyard equal to its power to put a +1/+1 counter on it. And when your creatures start off at 1, it is pretty easy after a single puzzle box activation to get that first counter. And then, you're naturally just putting stuff in the yard anyways. So Fabricated Anomaly just keeps on being the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh yeah.
I will say I love the artwork on this. It's from a Netrunner card originally, but the border is not my thing. So I'm like in this weird hybrid space where I'm like I want to run the art, but I don't want to run the border. Um, but this is such a pretty card. I love everything about it.
Yeah.
Speaking of new cards, though, we're moving on to I mean, Awoken Air is a new card, but speaking of new cards, Elgao Dawnrider. 3/3 Vigilance Haste for 2 red and a white. I'm so sorry, Dr. Chipmunk. The border is nice. It's just it's not my thing.
Yeah.
Um, 3/3 Vigilance Haste. Whenever it attacks, create a 1/1 white human creature token that's tapped and attacking. So right off the bat, that's not bad. And then it's got more text. If you control if you control four or more creatures, doesn't even say four or more attacking creatures. Just then, if you control four or more creatures, other attacking creatures get +1/+0 until end of turn. You may have one of those creatures gain lifelink until end of turn. Pretty solid package for a 4-mana body.
This thing is a terrifying end to their curve. I
Yep.
mentioned I've gotten to see this deck in action. I've even gotten to play against this deck. Dawn Rider does just warp the board pretty
Hmm.
drastically. The difference between staring down a tokens deck without Dawn Rider in play versus them getting Dawn Rider established, this thing will take over if you do not have a plan for it.
Hmm. It's yeah, it's pretty scary. It's not a unnerfed offset daemon, but I'll be honest, doesn't have to be. This thing's terrifying.
Oh yeah.
And let's be honest, even on an empty board, it's a vigilance haste 3/3, so you're not even losing out on blocking. You're just swinging in with this thing. You're getting another 1/1. So you're swinging for 4, and then it's all upside from there. So absolutely fantastic top end here for the red white token tempo. And speaking of tokens, the 7 sorceries contribute heavily to getting you all the tokens you need. You got the Runes Awaken here, 4 copies, no surprise. Creates 2/1/1 white golems for 2 mana, and then Landfall. White, exile it from your graveyard. You get one more of those, but you can only do that as a sorcery if a land enter the battlefield under your control this turn, which happens a lot. So to be honest, this is a pretty solid package at getting you tokens after tokens, and the Runes Awaken being split across 2 activations is exactly what you want for Kitsune Matriarch now that it has the once per turn rider. So it just fits in perfectly. What do we got next here? We got Rally to Thraben. Thraben? Thraben?
I think it's Thraben.
It's Thraben, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So X red white, you get X 1/1 white human creature tokens. When you do, it deals damage up to 1 target creature or planeswalker equal to the number of creatures you control. Yeah, this puts out a lot of bodies, and this takes out something decently mid to large size, honestly. The fact that you can already have a big board, and then this just becomes a really cheap way of like taking out something big. But yeah. This is part of the game plan. This is what you want to be doing.
Yeah.
All right, looking into the enchantments. I mean, there's a lot of them. There's 17 enchantments, and no surprise, they all pretty much have enter the battlefield effect. So, in all but name, these are just really juiced up sorceries. So, Sparks of a Revolution, one of Cleek's, I would say pretty much one of the most played policies, I think, besides the blue one, the research one.
Yeah, I think this one and Research Grant are the 2 best by far.
So yeah, creates a 1/1 haste the turn it enters just for 1 mana. That's fantastic. And then if 3 or more sources dealt damage, and a source you control dealt 3 or more damage this turn, could be a creature, it could be anything. And what's nice is it doesn't have to be to the player, it's just dealt damage. It flips, and then just whenever you attack, you get a token that's tapped and attacking, a 1/1. So fantastic card. I mean, for 1 mana, you really can't ask for much more than that. For Advance of the Sainted March, when that one enters, it's a 1 and a white. You get 2 1/1s. So again, the rate is just perfectly fine. If you manage to defeat it, just like Sparks of a Revolution, whenever you attack, you get a 1/1 that's tapped and attacking. So a lot of these enchantments do what you want in the first place by creating a token, and then will continue to create tokens throughout the rest of the match. So Westvale Cult Induction. So there's been a little bit of talk about this card. The front half is pretty cool. It's an enchantment. When it enters, you get to create a white aura enchantment token. Of note, Kitsune Matriarch triggers on any token that you control, so that will trigger your Kitsune Matriarch. It makes an enchanted creature lose all abilities and gain base power and toughness 3/3 attached to that creature. And then anytime that you got 4 mana open as a sorcery, you can flip it over. And then, you're off to kind of the races, because I believe, hold up, my screen's a little wonky here. You get your 1/1, but it's not really a 1/1, right? It's actually a 3/3, because creatures you control with no abilities get +2/+2. So suddenly all your tokens are absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, this thing spirals out of control so fast.
And I mean, and the front half is theoretically, there's some of your opponent's cards that this is a pretty decent removal. I mean, it's not, you don't necessarily want to be turning some stuff into 3/3s, but there's some cards that I wouldn't mind turning into a 3/3 with no abilities. But yeah, the back half is what's really terrifying.
Yeah. You can also just use this as a pump spell to buff your own tokens. The one thing you can't really do with this is throw this on a Kitsune Matriarch, because while it does make that a 3/3 plus all of the counters, it does not trigger the Matriarch if you put the aura.
You no longer grow it, which is not what you want. I mean, I could see sometimes wanting it in like a pinch if you're running out of gas and you'll have to, but yeah, normally you're throwing this on a token, and you've got plenty of ways of getting those out.
Yeah.
We've already talked about Advance of Fire and Faith, so I'm not gonna reread cards that we've already seen, but I mean, this is doing pretty much exactly what you would want in this deck. Casus Belli being essentially a banishing, no, it's creature or planeswalker, so more of a Journey to Nowhere type card. But creatures you control get +1/+0. I mean, this is exactly the kind of deck where you want that turn 3 removal. Take out your opponent's key card, whether it's a 3-drop or a 4-drop that's been accelerated in, and then your board is just stronger for it. So it's fantastic. And Gospel of Dominion. Whenever a creature you control with no abilities deals combat damage to a player or battle, you get to Impulse, and it's really cool. You play it until the end of your next turn, so it floats a little bit. And then, whenever you play a land from exile or cast a spell from exile, you get a 1/1 red Berserker creature token. Pretty much just going to be the land part. I don't think this deck has, aside from the Gospel of Dominion itself, there's no additional synergies, but I mean, this is a lot of fuel.
Yeah, the tokens off of Gospel Dominion are kind of just the gravy on top, but the first trigger is for each creature with no abilities, so works really cleanly with the Westvale Cult Induction incentive there on the Anthem side, on the backside. And just
It feeds
naturally
into itself,
plays.
right?
Yeah, it feeds into itself. The cards that it gets help you get the berserkers out of it. Those berserkers
Mm-hmm.
help you get more cards out of it. So it does really create this own sense of inevitability, very much like what we saw with the black red deck, where if you do not have a plan to kind of go over the top of something like this will win card advantage games
Mm-hmm.
if you are not prepared for it.
Absolutely. Moving to lands, we're at 24 lands. Makes sense. We're not. It's not really a pure, go face aggro. So it's good to the land situations here. We got four Torrid Paths, six plains, four mountains, four primal fissures. Seems about normal to me. And then some good utility here in Throne Hall of Reckoning. Sacks it. You can get 2/1/1s, and then Crucible of Bound Flame becomes a 2/2 that whenever it attacks, all your other creatures get +1/+0 until end of turn. So. Um, I don't know how often Crucible of Bound Flame as a 2/2 that attacks will survive, but sometimes it doesn't need to.
Yeah,
Just the fact that you can have your land hidden in the background there and then suddenly be like, all right, 3 mana, my board's 1 point bigger. If you've got two of these, maybe your board is 2 points bigger, and that's what it needs to take you over the top. So,
absolutely. Just having a battle cry creature hanging out in the
yep.
mana base is so good.
Sideboard here. Hylia Leyspire seen a little bit in League this month. Essentially respecting the fact that your opponents are using the graveyard as a resource this month, and this is a very clean way of saying whatever you did already is gone, and we're also going to keep hurting you whatever you were trying to do. So this is a clean answer to even those decks that we were talking about that will keep spitting things out into the yard. They have to deal with a 1/5 defender first, and that's not always easy to do. 3 mana sometimes might be a little slow, but just like we were discussing before, 3 mana is a pretty good breakpoint for some of these answers where you're not too far gone that you can't answer it, So, uh, what else we have? We have four Strangles. I mean, this is the month. The card is here. It deals with a lot of stuff. I'm not surprised. We're going to be seeing a lot of copies of Strangle here in this GP. A bonus copy of Advance of Fire and Faith, Sanctum of Repression, the exiles a non-land permanent you don't control until it leaves the battlefield if it either reprieves the creature, which I believe is return to your hand. I'm looking at the promo version of the
Yes.
card here. So
Reprieve,
and
as it enters, it returns something without reprieve
yeah,
to your hand. Has to be a creature, but there are no reprieve creatures in the deck,
yeah,
so it just bounces a creature.
yep. And then or permanent's mana value is 3 or less. So honestly, if it's that hits a lot of things. So
Oh yeah,
it's a very good card. Two more copies of Gospel of Dominion. Um, Yeah, I mean, if it's going long and you just need to keep getting that value out, there you go. And then a card that I really like, I'm a big fan of the time loops. It's a Revolt of the Palace, which if again the game is going longer, this is a 5 mana. You get to look at the top six. You put up to speaking of Coco type things, put up to one non-land permanent card with MV3 or less from among them onto the battlefield. The rest go on the bottom. You do that for 2 turns. And then your board gains double strike, and you probably have a board because you just triggered Revolt of the Palace twice, and then it just keeps looping itself again and again. So it's not necessarily, as prevalent as Shigane Manor Burns, which, by the fact that it's a 2 mana one and starts super early, but Revolt's value is pretty decent. I could see places where this is a card you'd want to bring in to guarantee that you don't run out of fuel and you can keep applying pressure.
absolutely. One of the things that I have found just subtly with Revolt of the Palace is also nice is alongside things like Crucible of Bound Flame, being able to animate the Crucible on your main phase in response to the Revolt trigger, so that way your land gets double strike as well. Just
Hmm.
the timing lining up
That's
such
nice.
that you can prepare for that, and it's after the draw step as well, so you get to know if there's anything you'd want to
Hmm.
play instead of animating your land. You get as much information as possible before needing to go to combat. It really does just kind of glue everything together really nicely.
Absolutely. All right, deck number four. We're at Styles. It's really nice to see Styles. I know Styles from my years of working in MSEM, so I'm very happy to see Styles also here in Rev. Hopefully, I get a chance to play them sometime this month. It's been a long time. You want me to read this one out as well, or did you want to take this one?
You can absolutely read it out.
All right, here we go. So, as the name goes, this is Styles's Rev Abzan pile. I mean, any good green-based sort of mid-range thing is starting off with four Husk Forger Acolytes. It's the format's premium or de facto one-drop mana dork. Not only does it give you the ram that you need, but it turns itself into a 5/5 trample, which is, a pretty good game-ending threat. And I will say, the fact that it's instant speed has done a lot of things for this card. I had to remind one of my friends who playtested with me that it was instant speed because the fact that you can block and then tap for itself for its own mana, and then suddenly your opponent's like, ah, they were at 6 all along, and then
Yeah.
something to keep in mind for this card. It can definitely be a little. I mean, people who play Revolution frequently enough know about it and will keep an eye on it. But people kind of just dipping their toes for a month or stuff should definitely keep that in mind.
It definitely is just this case of ambush Viper, but it's face up on the table the whole time.
It was there all along. Yeah, moving down, we've already seen it before, but 2 copies of Exorcist of Errors. Just great card all around. We have a Smiling Sludge. So this did it eat a nerf a while ago? I feel like I
It
was seeing
did.
this card a lot more. Yeah,
This
okay.
got nerfed a couple different ways. The most recent nerf was actually part of the Cliques of Nylon, or not Cliques of Nylon,
hmm
the Chica Chaos Reigns buff patch. That might sound a little bit weird, but it lost a point of toughness in the buff patch, and that's because the berries as a whole went up from getting
True.
+1
The
+1 to
plus
+2
two.
+2. So some creatures that made berries on lower parts of the curve got a slight stat hit to compensate for the improved stats
hmm
off of the berries. So this goes from being a 1/3 that can occasionally be a 2/4 to a
hmm
1/2 that can occasionally be a 3/4.
So yeah, I mean, pretty good card. It's a 1/2 berry. Whenever a non-land permanent you control is put into a graveyard, if it was sacked, the opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So, I mean, this is the berry, the full. Is it the full combo? Is it
I do believe they are on the full combo.
Yeah, it's a little lower down the list. That's why I was looking for it. Okay, so moving down, we got Feasting Predator here is a 3/3 for white, black, and green. Whenever one or more creatures die, create a berry token. You can see where this is going. You can sacrifice a berry to give it +1/+1 and trample until end of turn, and then up to 1 target creature blocks each combat this turn if able. Yeah, it's that first part. That's just part of it, right? Whenever something dies, get a
Both
berry.
parts can be important as well because just
Do you get
feasting
infinite berries or?
I believe the combo gives you infinite berries and
Okay,
infinite
well,
creatures. The infinite creatures alone does it with Smiling Sledge, and Feasting Predator is
go.
needed
Yeah.
to make the infinite creatures. But even just outside of its function as a combo piece, the sacrifice ability, just letting you funnel berries, both to just churn damage at the opponent with Smiling Sledge, like this is a totally reasonable mid-range card.
Mhm.
This does just spit out stats over time, and you can either pay the mana to just suit this thing up with berries and swing in for 5 or 7,
hmm
or you can just feed the berries to it without paying mana to give it half the buff, give it trample, and start bullying creatures on your opponent's board.
Absolutely. Moving on down, we got Rosenclad and Guilt. We've talked a little bit about this card already. It's a 3/3 for 3 legend. It gets Ward X, where X is the number of counters on Rosen. Just doesn't matter which ones, just Ward X, where's the counters. Second spell you cast each turn costs 2 less to cast, and whenever you cast a spell, put a counter on Rosenclad and Guilt. This is a terrifying card, Coveted.
Yeah, this gets out of hand supremely quickly.
I had the misfortune of seeing this thing, I think, up to a 9/9, and navigating around it in my first match that I played and recorded on the channel was challenging, and I didn't survive the games 2 and 3 against that deck. So I got around game 1, but it's a big one. Moving on down, we got some more legends here in Seer and Eternal Sentinel from this amazing set called Valir. This flying 3/3 for 3. It's already starting off really well. Whenever another creature you control dies, put a loyalty counter on Seer and you gain 1 life. It just keeps getting better. And then black, put a loyalty counter on Seer, transform her, activate only as a sorcery. I've got to say, the backside of Seern is the coolest of the pop-ups, I think, that you did for Valir. I think
It's definitely
this
the one
one,
I'm the most
this
proud
one
of.
is so pretty.
I got a tiny little bit of pushback on just the initial idea of having it pop out over the type line instead, and it covers the part that you expect on any planeswalker anyway, so
We
it
know what
ultimately
it
doesn't
says.
cause
We
an
know it
issue.
says dairy.
It's so cool.
Sacrifice
Legend, wait
creature,
for it.
Servile 1. It's off. It's amazing. So sacrifice
Yeah.
creature, Servile 1, put a loyalty counter. The 0 creates acolytes, which are 0/1 white and black warlock creatures that have 1 sack surveil 1. -2. You just get to bring back a non-angel, non-spirit from your graveyard straight to the battlefield. And then -X, exile target non-land permanent with mana value X. I think all three of these modes plus the activated ability make this such a powerful package.
Oh,
So
absolutely. This is one of the ones I am a little surprised this is the first of the flipwalkers we have seen, but I'm not surprised that we're seeing it here.
I think we're going to bump into some of the other ones on our way down. I
Oh,
wouldn't
for
be
sure.
surprised.
I'm anticipating 3 or 4 at
At
the very
least
least. I think I'd be
I
shocked
think
to
we're going
see
to
all
definitely
5,
3.
but yeah.
Definitely 3. I could see 4. I'm not sure about the 5th, but
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see as we
Unfortunately, I
go
do
there.
think one of them is a solid step below the rest, so I'd be surprised if we see all 5.
Keep moving on down. I mean, we got a lot of like 1-ofs and 2-ofs as we go down here. We've got a Syra, Blade of Memory, 4 mana, 2 green and white for a 4/5. Body's already starting to look good. Can't be countered. It's got lifelink. Your opponents can cast spells only during their own turns. Yeah, I mean that shuts down a few decks.
Yeah.
It's pretty solid. If you
Really
want
good
to
against
protect
blue.
yep, and if you want to be protecting your combo and what you've got going on, I mean Syra's going to do the trick. And while you're waiting to set it up, she's also just going to slam you for 4 damage lifelink until you get there. So
Yeah, I know folks
uh,
were kind of. I saw some sort of split reaction. Some people kind of concerned about this just being a lot weaker than it used to be because this got a full rework at the start of the month. Used to be a completely different card. Very, very powerful card. One of the big incentives to go wide in green and white. And so this being where Syra
was
has
the
ended
gain
up
life on
anymore.
ETB. Yeah, okay.
Gain 1 life whenever whenever she or another one of your creatures enters, and then can like draw you cards, can put +1/+1 counters on all your creatures, and was 3 mana for a 2/3. Really, really solid snowbally card.
That's okay. People got Volwood Warder this month. We're
Oh,
in business.
absolutely.
We're
The
good. We
people,
just
people,
replaced it.
yeah, people who want to snowball, they just can't do it with tokens anymore. Except
You'll have to do it with
unless you're playing Westvale
yeah.
Induction.
Exactly. Moving on down and realizing that it's already been 46 minutes and we're only on deck 4.
Yeah, we're gonna have
we
to
might
pick
have
up the pace
to
a little bit.
we might have to pick up the pace. So let's be reasonable. We're gonna move down. If we've seen a card, we're just gonna name it and we go. I mean, how about this? People can pause. They'll see what the cards are, right?
Yeah.
You want to maybe let's pick up the pace on reading them out. I mean, if something's really critical to a deck, we can do that.
I think the most important things to hit on are the combos in Styles'
yes.
deck.
So let's do that then.
So
you want to take it? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Generous Farmer is part of the Smiling Sludge Feasting Predator combo. Specifically, Generous Farmer enters, makes a berry. Whenever you sacrifice a berry, you make a 1/1 plant. Feasting Predator is part of that combo. You sacrifice the berry to make the plant. If you can sacrifice the creature, the plant in some capacity, Feasting Predator then makes you another berry for you to sacrifice, and you just chain back and forth. Smiling Sludge kills the opponent. The way that you are sacrificing your plant tokens is with Searin Internal Sentinel's transformed side. So it is a 4-card combo across a handful of different creatures. Mostly pretty relevant, solid mid-range creatures. Then there's
that's exactly what I was going to say.
Generous Farmer.
You're not putting random pieces that don't do anything together, right? Like, and look, there's 1 Smiling Sludge, there's 1 Generous Farmer, right?
Yeah.
The rest of the deck is still doing good stuff. I mean, so you might not even see the combo. You might be dead by the time the combo's even close to being assembled because this deck is just piling out some really strong Abzan mid-range threats.
Yeah. And speaking of combos, we've got Life Hacker again. Not just
4 of them.
not just a fair mid-range creature. This is one of the best mid-range creatures we have in the format, but this is also how you kill with Nether Ponderings all the way down at the bottom with the enchantments. Whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Whenever you gain life while Life Hacker is leveled up, you have the opportunity to draw a card. This just machine guns down your opponent. If you have more cards in the library, then they have life. Life Hacker also combos with the other enchantment that is a full playset, Pact Beyond Death, something that we talked about earlier. If you have dealt at least 2 damage to Pact Beyond Death, have it down to 4 defense or lower. Whenever you draw a card, you gain 2 life. That also loops with Life Hacker.
Yep.
And you've got a couple removal spells here. Not a ton of removal spells to pick off your Life Hacker by any means, but 2 copies of Hang, which does get to target Life Hacker because Life Hacker itself corrupts this, and then 1 copy of Fateful Ascent. So any of these can pick off the Life Hacker at instant speed in response to the Pact Beyond Death loop. So you can just dig through your deck, gain a bunch of life, draw a bunch of cards, and then either Fateful Ascent or Hang your Life Hacker to break the loop, or you can even, if you have one Pact Beyond Death, and Fateful Ascent is what you find. You can Fateful Ascent to the Pact Beyond Death to keep the Life Hacker around and still try and assemble the Nether Ponderings kill.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, this is not only gain a bunch of life, draw a bunch of cards, but this can also help find your one of Generous Farmer, your one of Smiling Sledge to set up the kill. And Chip does note that you don't even necessarily need the Smiling Sledge to kill, because doing the Feasting Predator, Generous Farmer, Seern loop does get you an infinitely large trampler in the Feasting Predator.
Oh, you know what? I missed the fact that it gains trample. That's why.
Yeah. Outside of that, there is just some other solid top-end creatures. Meteor Hellion is a one of to pick off problematic permanents or pick off something in the opponent's hand. 2 copies of Survivors of the New World, because this is just one of the best green-white creatures in the format. One of the best reasons to be in green-white, and one of the reasons to be on Lunar Awe if you aren't in green-white. 1 Ephemeros Redeemer as the absolute top end of the scale, getting to rebuy one of your creatures from your graveyard and also let you pay some life to get a copy of it in play. Outside of the 3 removal spells that can pick off Life Hacker, there's 2 Twilight Ambushes. In the sorcery spot, there is a singleton copy of Nightfall. And then the reason there are so many one-ofs that this deck can get away with so many one-ofs is a pair of Cryptologies. Getting to exile something from your graveyard, search for something with the same mana value, and lose 2 life. Very happy to see more of this card. Obviously not as powerful as it was back last month in Worlds, because in Worlds, one of the combo pieces you were getting was a land. But even when you're not getting a land off of this, the combo pieces you can find, it just improves consistency so much. It can find you an answer if you absolutely need it. So there's just such a great consistency tool.
And then we already talked about the enchantments. We talked about Path and Nether Ponderings. I mean, the Desolates here in the land are really interesting.
Yeah, Desolate Cemetery to rebuy creatures and planeswalkers from graveyard. Desolate Thicket to kind of push a little bit wider. I think the Thicket might struggle to see reliable value here, because this isn't a deck that goes super wide. There is Survivors of the New World.
I mean,
there's the tokens off of Seern, so like there is some things that can push a bit wide.
Survivors, tokens off of Farmer, tokens off of Seern.
Yeah, it can kind of get some bodies rolling. I don't know how often you're going to be angling to really pop Desolate Thicket, but it does have some functionality for sure.
Look, if you're already willing to go singleton on some stuff, it's not one Desolate Thicket. I think they'll make or break, and if it works out, it works. But I'll be honest, I mean, at the end of the day, the first part is just fine. Sometimes you surveil off this land, and that's what you needed, and it's gonna be untapped if you need it. So
sometimes you search for this off of Cryptology because you are just a couple points of damage away from lethal, and this is how you get there.
Speaking of those error spell lands, there's Forgotten Junkyard, which gets you back a creature and up to 1 enchantment from your graveyard to your hand. So pieces of the puzzle, pieces of the combo being able to be picked up here.
There's also 1 Isolated Tower as some additional flexible removal.
I like these cards. I have them in every Rev cube that I've partially designed so far. I always put them in just because they're fun. They're really nice cards.
I'm a big fan of the. I think there are some ERR fetches that I'm a little less fond of, but for the most part, a lot of these are just really, really good.
I'm a sucker for complete cycles. I know there's a lot of people who are like, oh, you can break cycles. I'm like, no. If I'm putting in 1, I'm putting in all 10. The rest is pretty much what you would imagine, though. We've got some basics: Fissure, Profane Grove, Stark Expanse, basics, paths, everything you would imagine that an Abzan 3-color deck needs to be playing things reliably, especially a lot of maybe a little bit painful, but a lot of untapped green, right? You want to get those Huskforger Acolytes out early, and you want to,
Yeah.
Sideboard. I mean, Hungry Blob. Oh, I love that guy.
Such a fun card. Such a simple card, but so good when it matters.
Super clean.
Kills battles now.
It does. That's been the big thing, right? It's so funny how it's been a nerf for some of them, but it's also been a pro so it's been a really nice change.
Yeah.
2 more copies of Syra, copy of Survivors. The first new card here after Hungry Blob is 3 copies of Architect of Resolve. It's a 3/4 for 4. Whenever 1 or more other creatures you control leave the battlefield without dying.
This is part of
Create
another.
2/1/1s.
This is part of another backup combo in the sideboard. We'll get to the combo piece with this now, but I love that there's got to squeeze the 3rd combo in here.
It's great. Copy of Hang, copy of Nightfall, 2 culling rituals, and 4 copies of Crucible of the Burning Sun if you got to hit that graveyard. So,
Yeah. And also with Crucible of the Burning Sun, not only is it graveyard hate you can bring in if your opponent is
yep,
on a graveyard plan, if you're boarding this
yep,
in to bully out an opposing graveyard deck, you can also board in the Architect of Resolve as a backup
yep.
combo.
Because things aren't
Architect,
dying.
because things aren't dying when because tokens aren't dying as well. When you have Architect make 2 1/1 soldiers, you can have one of them get sacrificed to Siren's activated ability on the backside, make 2 more because they don't die, they get exiled instead, and then you just get to surveil infinitely, make infinite 1/1s, and then just pass and stare at your opponents.
So you've heard us. There's like 3 combos in this deck,
Oh yeah.
and it can just smack you in the face. So
Yeah, it
be
can just
prepared,
beat
players.
you down.
Be prepared.
It does not need the combo, but it has those panic buttons.
All right, we are moving into our 5th deck here. Oh my gosh, we got so much more to go.
So
it's
much
okay.
to talk about.
There's so much to talk about, and I will be honest. At one point, if we hit near midnight, I will have to go.
We'll
So
try and go as quickly as we can.
We've seen a lot of these cards. I say that, but that's not true. Actually, we're about to hit the Druid package. Dr. Chipmunk, hopefully you're still around in the chat. It's an introduction to Druid mechanics. So you want to take this one?
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like these next 2 decks are very similar in overall shape,
Yes.
actually. So
Thankfully.
This is green-blue Druid Ramp. Druid Ramp is one of the big things supported by Valir, the Banished Isle. Most notable is the addition of the ancient mechanic originally seen in Blood Like Rivers, cares about you having 8 or more total lands among cards in play and in your graveyard. So not every card in this deck is a Druid necessarily. Obviously, Huskforger Acolyte is a human artificer, but just gets you to 3 drops on turn 2. That's really all you could ask for.
It's an honorary Druid.
Absolutely. And it's not the only 1-drop ramp. We're going to kind of jump down here. Honorary 1-drop ramp as well is Root Fossil. 1 mana artifact, pay 2, sacrifice it to surveil 3. You can put a land surveilled this way from your graveyard into play tapped, and you can surface it for 2 and a green later on if you have Threshold to make a 2/4 token that does the surveil and put a land back from graveyard to play on attack.
Surveil 3 on attack has always seemed like it's such a big number when you think about it. You know,
this is probably one of the quietly one of my favorite powerhouses in the format. This is just such an innocuous little 1-drop. This is
okay. See, I did not know about an introduction to fluid mechanics by A.H. Jameson. So thank you, Dr. Chip.
Thank you
for clarifying
that explains the deck name. So Root Fossil gets to pull a little bit more weight than it has already gotten to do in decks it has seen play in prior to this month, because getting to Surveil 3, you were already kind of fine binning multiple lands off of this, especially thanks to Aurora Buffer Exec, which we'll get to in a moment. But having that ability also now accelerate you to Ancient is just additional icing on top of an already good cake. So Root Fossil can help you jump up to 4 mana on turn 3. Huskforger obviously can jump you to that and 3 mana on turn 2. There are some 2-drops in here, though. A playset each of the Setral Shaper, a 2/3 for 2 that lets you surveil 1 and put a loyalty counter on them whenever a land you control enters. You can also pay 3 mana, put a loyalty counter on Setral Shaper to transform them into Junie, Shaper Unbound, a planeswalker that can let you surveil and draw a card, tap an on-land permanent and stun it, or you can downtick by 2 loyalty to make an XX, or X number of lands you currently have in play. And if you're Ancient, you can activate Junie's abilities twice each turn rather than only once. So really
powerful.
Gets out of control if you have Ancient online. There's also Voice of the Old Grove. So this is a sort of like mid-rangey rampy deck, but there is sort of a combo of adjacent proportions in this deck.
It's a really strong synergy.
It's a really strong synergy between Voice of the Old Grove and one of the 5-drops we're getting to in a moment. Voice of the Old Grove is a 2 mana 1/1 Azra Druid with Vigilance. It has landfall to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, but if you're Ancient, it gets 3 counters instead. So you can get to Ancient pretty quickly in a deck like this, and then that just rapidly spirals the board out of control in your favor. You can really put a lot of stats into play this way. Especially because you also get access to Risen Reef. Umber Grove Tender is 1 green and a blue for a 1/1 snake druid that whenever it or another druid you control enters, you get to flip the top card of your library. If it's a land, comes into play tapped. If you don't put it into play, you get to put it right into your hand. Risen Reef is one of my favorite goofy little build-arounds in Constructed back in the day, and so if druids are really looking to put lands into play and ramp out, why not give druids a Risen
Flavorfully, it fits perfectly. So
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
really, really works nicely with this druid package. Works nicely with the 2 mana druids. You could just dig really deep.
mhm.
Works really well with Airy Lay Fused, the big mythic druid here. 4 mana 4/4 snake druid with vigilance and reach lets you cast spells as though they had flash. And if you're ancient, you get to untap your lands if at your end step. So
And then you can cast spells as though they had flash at your end step. So
yeah,
it's
so can kind of functionally double your mana at your end step if you haven't spent any mana prior to that point.
it's
Uh,
really good.
yeah, very very wilderness reclamation shaped. You can tell that that was kind of on my mind. But that era of Magic was on my mind between wilderness reclamation, mythic, reclamation shaped mythic, and then also the Risen Reef shaped 3-drop. So
Look, if ever we play Rev Commander, you know this is the card I'm picking, by the way. So like there's not even any hesitation. This is the
listen,
one I would play.
it's been on my mind, so I'll have to follow up with you at some point about that. We got a lot of good druids back in Eternals.
Yes.
So.
So speaking of that 5-drop you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, Aurora Buffer Exec is the big top end card here. Full playset of this legendary creature because she is a 5-mana 5/5 with trample. Does have a really tight casting cost, but there's not many mono blue sources in the deck, so it's pretty easy to make happen. Whenever she enters or attacks, you get to surveil 3, then return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So as you're building up Ancient, as you're putting more and more lands in your graveyard,
Yep.
she gets to just put all of them back into play. If you have a Voice of the Old Grove into play, it's very likely that you are going to be Ancient once Aurora enters and triggers.
Mm-hmm.
And so each of the lands that Aurora brings back can be 3+1/+1 counters on any of your creatures. If Aurora's trigger is happening as part of her attack, you instead get to put all of those counters on her, and she has trample. So that is +3/+3 permanently to her while she's swinging in with trample for each land that comes back in the process of her attack trigger.
I've seen a few League players calling out how big their Aurors got. So there's like, I think, you know what, for this GP, I'm putting it out there as a challenge. I want to see what the biggest Auror we can get swinging.
Yeah, let's do a little side tournament. Who can get the biggest Aurora over the course of the tournament?
Before your opponent concedes.
Yeah.
All right.
Last creature here is 1 copy of Prying Hydra, 5 mana Star Eye Hydra with reach, power and toughness equal to the number of cards in your hand, and whenever it enters or attacks, you can sacrifice another non-eye creature to draw X and gain X, where X is the sacrifice creature's toughness. Something that I believe was being put in here specifically to try and shore up life total concerns against very aggressive strategies. Buy a bit more time, get a bit more cards in hand. Totally fine if you just have like extra copies of Aurora and you don't have Voice of the Old Grove rolling. You could just pop Aurora, gain 5, draw 5.
Yep.
Just buy yourself a ton of time.
Your hand tends to be actually decently like mid to full. I mean, in this deck, right?
Between Central Shaper, Umber Grove Tender, they keep your hand pretty full.
Yep. Not shape the pattern, but Teeming Secrets, etc., etc. So
Teeming Secrets, speaking of,
yeah.
is not too dissimilar to a card we have seen in Modern Horizons 3, Planar Genesis. This digs one card shy of being Planar Genesis, but this is 2 mana, dig 3 cards deep, put a land from among them into play tapped, and if you don't, you get to put 1 card into hand. Either way, the rest go into your graveyard. So if you flip multiple lands off of this can accelerate you towards Ancient. This can accelerate your mana in general. Another way to get up to 4 mana on turn. Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you. We just had a bit of a
little bit of a pop.
There was a little bit of an error in the WEF there.
Whoops. Fittingly so. Teeming Secrets can kind of just ramp you to 4 mana on turn 3 as well. And then Shape of the Pattern is the glue that binds it all together, finds you your Aurora, finds you your Airy, your Prying Hydra, your Voice of the Old Grove, your Setral Shaper. Whatever you need, it gets it for you.
What doesn't it do? Yeah.
I love this card so much. I'm so happy with where it is landing. 26 lands here. We've got a lot of fetches between Primal Fisher as a playset, 3 copies of Forgotten Foundation, which is an always enters tapped, surveils 1 when it enters, but it fetches a land untapped all times. Nice adjacent, slower version of something like Primal Fisher.
The surveil here is really relevant. I mean, you want those lands in the yard. So
I am a little surprised to see no errors in the weft fetches though, because I almost wonder if those are just better because those automatically sacrifice when they enter, so you could just like keep getting them
double
back
up
off
on
of Aurora. But
Yeah,
Forgotten
they
Foundation,
would.
the Enter Surveil, and you can just crack it the next time you get it, ahead of the next time you get an Aurora trigger if you're only getting one Aurora trigger every turn anyways. So it's not the worst thing in the world
What's
to have this.
what's the green blue one do again? It's
It puts
regrowing outlands, right? Yeah.
token copies of a land you control into play, so it gets you a bit
Okay.
additional ramp. I think I can see Forgotten
I
Foundation
could.
being a little bit better.
Hmm.
ERR fetches prevent Aurora from stacking your draws since the shuffle is non-optional. Oh, I
Yeah.
see. Is this? I guess the search is non-optional. Well, let me scroll
Oh,
up.
interesting. Okay.
Oh yeah, you do have to search. Yeah. Well, there we
Hmm.
go. That would explain it.
The
And
more
then the
you know.
Forgotten Foundation gives you additional deck fixing from there. One basic island and 5 basic forests. Chip did say the worst card in the deck is
The
the one basic island.
the one basic island, but you need it, right?
Yep.
Isn't it the whole
Playset
the whole
of
math here?
playset of Clearwater Grotto, 3 each of Temple of Origins and Lush Oasis, 2 Desolate Thicket, to kind of just push a little bit wider, get more counters on the board
Hmm.
there, and 1 Buffery Conservatory as a bonus outlet for all of your mana.
Yeah.
Sideboard here is 1 of Blightstalker and 1 of Astraling as things you can find off of Shape the Pattern. Blightstalker bullying graveyards, Astraling getting to get a bit of anti-control power here. 3 copies of Winding Assailant, I'm assuming just in matchups where you want the 3 mana 4/4. I'm not quite sure what the full game plan is here with the Winding Assailant. Very
I
good to
don't.
pursue off of like sacrificing a root fossil that you have sticking around in play.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna
Um,
say you're surveilling quite a bit. You're gonna get
yeah.
to that pursuit fast enough. This is just 4/4 trample. 4 is a
Yep.
good break point.
Convert a
2
Huskforger
4/4s. Yeah.
Acolyte into a pair of
Yep.
4/4s. Convert a Setral
Yep.
Shaper that you just have like randomly while you already have Junie in play. You could just drop a Setral Shaper to tee up the double Winding Assailant.
Yep. That's a 3
Chip
drop.
also notes, don't even need the Thicket counters. Just Desolate Thicket is a land you can put into your graveyard, so Aurora can get back
Nice.
more stuff. Assailant is for red-black aggro since they can't kill it, and it blocks all their things. So it is for a blocker.
Maybe we're running the 4 damage 3 mana burn spell. You don't know that.
Yeah, that is true. I've seen it getting some solid use out of Kumrock's hands. So,
But yeah, 4/4 trample is a big enough body that some
yeah.
of the aggro stuff doesn't get through easily.
Yeah.
Astraling.
Astraling is the like anti-control card. Playset of Click.
Click.
I guess as the anti-token tool of choice.
Yeah.
3 copies of Collector's Item as some just general creature removal if you really need some creature removal. Since green blue's not great at that. And then 3 Golden Bloom of the Silenced as the general panic button. Deal with anything you care about. We will go over.
Oh, this deck's not really running interaction, right?
Yeah, not a lot of interaction.
You're
No
going
stack
over the
interaction.
top. Yep. You're going over the top of what your opponent is doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can take the hits. You've got some life gain. You've got some decent sized bodies, and then after that, you're killing them. So it's like, all right, yes, Lee's deck Druidific is similar enough.
Very similar, but there is a secondary
there's some differences.
here.
Yeah, there's the
Concurrent Escapist is one of the first new cards here. Really good with Umber Grove Tender. You get a 2 mana 1/2 that taps for green if it is corrupted and it isn't a token when it enters. So if you have something that costs more than 2 in play, you get a token copy of this. So that is 2 Druids entering. Grove Tender guarantees that you get to corrupt it. So you can curve Umber Grove Tender into get a pair of Concurrent Escapists off of it, and that gets you 2 Grove Tender triggers. Not a Druid is a bit of a flash package here. 2 copies of Interstellar Sage as Snapcaster Mage, but for instants and cards with flash.
Speaking of cards with flash,
there's also 3 copies of Omen Mare, which gets to
Mare.
counter or destroy any non-creature spell, non-land permanent, non-creature things that aren't lands. Very, very solid card. Frilled Mystic is great. Mystic Snake's great. I have been so happy with Omen Mare every time I've seen it getting to do some work.
It's running a little slower. I mean, it doesn't run the Husk Forgers, right? So it's not so much as.
But this is getting to try and play some more interaction. There's the playset of Teeming Secrets, but rather than trying to play the like Shape the Pattern tutor package, this is on 6 counter spells, 2 Overrule Wills, getting to mill yourself builds up Ancient pretty nicely. Unravel Thoughts I think is going to really struggle to be online for 2 modes because Druids just fills your hands so rapidly. But that is really nice for something that is trying to play a little bit more of a grindy control control game. So that
Yeah, and
can
if you're on Interstellar Sage, all the other modes on Unravel Thoughts are still really good. I mean, including the counter here,
absolutely.
right? Because you're doing that flash.
Yeah. The tap all creatures target player controls can also just be really nice. A deck like this
Mm-hmm.
really struggles against something that's just going to blitz them down in the early turns. Unravel Thoughts just getting to be a fog effectively against
Mm-hmm.
something like tokens is not nothing.
Nope, and
Um,
it's happened before in League. I remember seeing that. So,
yeah, and then a playset of Stargazing. The
yep,
discard really good. Just pitch a land, go dig a bit deeper.
yep.
It's a really good
The
card.
mana base is a lot simpler. We're just
Yep.
on Fisher's basics, your usual 4, 4, and 4, and then one island again. I think that's really funny though that both
Yeah,
decks are just on
folks just
the
do
one
not want the
island.
one island. I mean, the
Um,
nice thing about the only one island is that it means you're almost guaranteed to be able to cast Aurora off of 5 lands.
mhm.
In fact, Lee is more likely to be able to cast Aurora once they hit 5 mana, because hitting 5 mana for Chip might mean Huskforger Acolyte plus basic island is in play, and colorless plus blue does not cast Aurora.
Mhm. True.
Sideboard for Lee has 3 copies of Purifier of Dawnbloom Grove as a
Mhm.
bit of another druid, really good for that synergy with Umber Grove Tender. Also gets to pick off small artifacts or enchantments, or bigger ones if you can reprieve a creature.
Mhm.
And sure enough, Concurrent Escapist is a really good creature to reprieve, especially if you got Umber Grove Tender
Yep.
rolling.
And
Um,
the puzzle box is a artifact with mana value 0. So,
Absolutely.
um,
Calming Oryx, serving seemingly a similar function to Winding Assailant, shedding the
mhm.
graveyard synergy and the more easily cast cost. Can't be cast off of
Yep.
that basic island. But whenever damage is dealt to it, you gain 1 life, so that does get to pad your life total a little bit more against these black-red
And
aggro
it's a 4
decks.
4.
And
So,
it's a 4/4, so eats strangles all day. 1 flutter as a bit of graveyard
yep.
hate, 2 negates for some more stack interaction, and then very
Mhm.
much like Chip's deck, we see 3 collector's item for more creature removal and 2 golden bloom of the silenced.
Pretty good. And
Looks
speaking of
like
decks that we've seen, there's differences.
there's
The
differences. This is very,
but
very
it's a similar
toolboxy.
package.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tremors, good stuff combo mid range. We see a lot of one ofs here. It looks like for the most part, this is very similar in creature base. This
The
is
creature,
playing the
yeah,
one
creature base
of
is very
Feasting
similar.
Predator and just not even bothering with Smiling Sludge, accepting that
Mhm.
Feasting Predator just needs to get in for that combo to do its job,
Yep.
which I think is pretty reasonable. Otherwise, creature base is pretty similar. One less Life Hacker, also pretty notable.
Mhm.
No Femoros Redeemer, but I think
Mhm.
pretty reasonable creature suite. The instants are 1 fewer hang, 1 fewer Twilight Ambush, but there's also a Dulcairn Charm here. Is a bit
Yep.
more flexible removal. Can also rebuy a creature or land from your graveyard. We see the 2 Cryptologies. We see 2 Nightfalls in the main, plus 1 Rain of
Mhm.
Blight.
That's yep.
Can deal with 5 toughness creatures if you're willing to shock something in, or if you've got a desolate land that you can pay 1 life to get mana.
Mhm.
So that can be pretty nice. And
2
two
eyes
eyes
gone
gone,
dark
yeah,
here.
2 eyes
Yep.
gone dark, giving you a bit more hand attack beyond just the Exorcist of Errors.
I mean, chart tokens aren't horrible in a deck that's wanting to run 3 colors either, so
Yeah,
it's
and
not a bad
then
little piece to layer on.
1 Banisher rifle here as just no nonsense pick off a permanent and get a bit of exalted power out of it in the process.
Yeah, why not? And then yeah, the 1 Nether Ponderings, the 1 of everything else.
Yeah. 23 lands here, pretty similar overall in structure. Looks like just kind of shedding the ERR fetches compared to the deck list we saw from
Yep.
Styles.
And no Desolate Thicket, but sticking with the Cemetery, I believe, right? Yep.
Yes, and Gallows Sprout Timber also I don't believe was in
Yep.
Styles' deck. Gallows Sprout Timber,
No, it was not.
very, very good creature land.
Yep.
Like we said earlier, just incidental graveyard hate in the mana base is nice. Sideboard
And
is
then
a lot more one of focused, really leaning
Mhm.
on cryptology to try and carry weight. There is 2 Syra, there is 3 Culling Ritual,
Mhm.
but otherwise we do not see that third. Oh, we do see that third card from the sideboard, that third combo
It's
from the
there.
sideboard,
There's
but it's
one.
just
There's one copy.
Architect of Resolve, 1 Crucible Burning Sun, the 4th copy of Life Hacker. There's
Mhm.
1 Karaz Leyspire to pick off just any problematic card that your opponent's building around.
Yep.
1 Oberus Ley Pilgrim as some artifact and enchantment removal that can also buy you
Mhm.
some time on board. 1 Cathar's Charm for the just flexible options that it has. There's 1 Absentia and 1 Duress for more targeted hand attack. 1 Go Blank as both hand attack, hand disruption, and graveyard hate.
Mhm.
And then 1 Beyond Comprehension if you're just desperate for another sweeper.
and then 3 culling rituals.
Oh yeah, and 3 culling rituals.
If you want more sweepers.
It deals with rebels, deals with tokens.
I will say I'm seeing a lot of decks very tech towards that, so
And we have yet to see a rebels deck.
we'll get there.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, I say that, and then we'll get there. I don't want to scroll too far down. I like the experience of finding some
Yeah,
new stuff. Could I read the next deck's name? I've been
absolutely.
staring at it for like a little bit, and I wanted to go here. Viola's The Singularity Enjoyer has logged on. Parentheses. I've played 2 league matches with this because I was working on hashtag Towers of Tin Lao, hashtag Stealth Ad. So hashtag YOLO. Sorry if it's a bad list. In parentheses, blue black small creatures.
Yeah, this is a lot of cards that have not gotten to see a ton of play. And then there's also Life Hacker and Exorcist of Errors.
I was about to say, well,
Yeah,
join
this
with
is
the
this is
popular
a
kid.
this is a lot of really cool creatures that have not gotten to see much play, backed up by Exorcist and Life Hacker.
I looked at Komazoa a lot leading up to
Oh yeah.
today. I was very tempted to build a deck with this thing.
Yeah, this does kind of bully. I go back and forth on Komazoa because this really does bully mana efficiency a lot. But the more you try and lean on this bullying mana efficiency, the more this punishes you trying to be mana efficient as
Yeah.
well. It kind of both needs your opponent to be desperate to be spending all of their mana every turn, but also needs you to not care about spending all of your mana. Now, this is a deck with 11 instants, but I don't believe there are any creatures with flash, so it's just those instants kind of carrying the weight of holding up a blue for Komazoa. Now, granted, some of those instants are very good to hold up. There's also 3 copies of Moonscarred Mystic. Both of these are 1/1s, 2/2s for 1 that get to put a -1/-1 counter on any of your creatures. So these can put -1/-1 counters on each other if they don't already have one, to let you just develop one of these as a 2/2 for 1.
Yep.
Moonscarred Mystic can convert those -1/-1 counters into card draw to just dig yourself a little bit deeper. At 2, there is the 3 of Exorcist of Errors. There is also 4 copies of Scornful Hex Mistress, a honestly really solid French vanilla 2-mana 2/1 with Menace and Prowess. 18 non-creature spells that can absolutely just hit you for 3 or 4 every turn. And just a
I will
headache to block.
say some of those being 4 copies of Singularity, and like Sovereigns make it maybe a little harder, but
I do think some of those spells being removal specifically actually works really nicely with Scornful Hex Mistress because it just makes it that much more annoying to try and meaningfully block this.
you know what? I keep misreading Singularity. I forget you can just point it even if it doesn't
Point it
work,
at anything.
right? Yeah.
If
Okay.
it's your
Yeah,
first
yeah,
Singularity of the game, you can point it at your own Hex Mistress.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah,
Never
Singularity
mind.
is really good. There is also at 2 copies of Exultant's Shepherd, 2-mana 2/1, very bob-shaped. Upkeep, you draw a card, then you lose 3 life unless you sacrifice another creature. This can bleed you out really quickly if you don't have things to feed to it, but fortunately, Komazoa, Moonscarred Mystic, in a pinch, they are just 1/1, quote-unquote 1/1s you can feed to the Shepherd.
Or vice versa. In a pinch, you can put the -1/-1 counter on Exultant Shepherd.
Yeah, that is microphone
If
pop
you have
number
to get
3.
rid of it. That's all right.
I don't know what is up with my microphone tonight. But yeah, Exultant Shepherd. You can't pop it to itself, but this is just
You
something
can pop
that
it to a second copy of
you can
itself.
pop it to a second copy of itself for sure.
I've been there.
Yeah, and it's also just fine to block with it after you've gotten to draw a card or two. Playset of
Stargazer.
Eclipsed Stargazer, great creature to sacrifice to it. 3-mana 3/1 that can't block, and when it dies, you draw 3 cards.
Yep.
Not the most innocent stat line that you just have to like sit around and ignore it, and it is really hard to block this thing without killing it. So could potentially
It's got 1
trade-
toughness, so
Yeah, 1 toughness. It might be in a position where it often forces a trade, so that way your opponent's not just hemorrhaging 3 life every turn. And
you hope that you have an Oberus Lay Pilgrim.
yeah,
Whoop.
Microphone popped again.
That's all right. Hope for the Lay Pilgrim 0/4 wall. That's what you want.
Yeah. But yeah, this thing is really sweet. And then the 2 life hacker at the top. Instants are a playset of Singularity. Pop a creature or enchantment if its mana value is less than or equal to the number of spells named Singularity you've cast this game. Not a lot of ways to like rebuy this from the graveyard, but there is a lot of focus on decks trying to skew towards lower curves. A lot of concern with folks skewing towards very low curves. Rebels, a lot of 1s and 2s.
There's no way of getting it back from the yard, right?
No way of getting them back from the yard in this particular list, but I think just has decided that doesn't really matter.
Yep. It's going to go to
Um,
4, and you know what? That's going to be a life hacker, and that's where
yeah,
we're going to top out, and that's going to be
absolutely.
enough, right? So,
3 copies of Discern as the cantrip of choice. It looks like the only cantrip. Um, but yeah,
yep.
flashback is really good here. Think twice, but the front side costs 1 less. Not
Hmm.
awful. 2 copies of Deft Deflection as the quench of choice. Countering activated and triggered
Hmm.
abilities can have some decent use. One thing I have not seen people talk about: Rosen is really annoying. You know what Ward is? A triggered
Hmm.
ability.
Hmm.
So it doesn't feel great to 2-for-1 yourself to deal with Rosen, but dying to Rosen feels even worse. So
Absolutely.
Sovereign's Execution can, of course, deal with Rosen in that context. Just
Hmm.
great 2 mana removal spell. Sorceries are 3 copies of Duress, 2 copies of Anya's Thirst, way to deal with those 5 toughness creatures, 3 mana, -5/-5, and you can have a creature you control Gorge. This can clear the -1/-1 counters from something that got it off of Komazoa or Moonscarred Mystic.
Hmm.
Can just let your Komazoa hit even harder if you've already gotten to peel the -1/-1 counter off of Komazoa, the +1/+1 counter from that lets Komazoa start hitting for 3 in the air, turn after turn. And then
I
Homesick
like the sound of
is
that.
some hand attack, just pressure out their
Yep.
hand, and if they pitch a land, they take 2.
Looking at the lands, I mean, Karaz Observatory, as we talked about, really nice to see there, but everything else is pretty par for the course.
Yep.
Sideboard, we're seeing some new stuff. Midari Lacespire. These Lacespires are very good sideboard material here. We're seeing, I think this is the third one. We've seen the black, the white. This is the blue.
Mm-hmm. I think
Say
all 5 are
one
good.
four, yeah, 1/4 for. I say yeah. I don't remember what the other red and green ones. So
Uh,
maybe we'll spot them later.
Maybe.
It'll be a surprise for me if we bump into them. 1/4 defender for 2. I mean, honestly, not bad. And then for 1 mana, just simply change a target of target spell or ability to Midari Lacespire. Hope you weren't planning on strangling a Rosen or so something at 3 toughness because that's going to redirect it.
Oh
So.
yeah, this is really
Um,
really good with Strangle in the format now.
it's also not like the worst thing to dump some of those counters from Moonscard Mystic and Komazo on if you don't mind and you just want to chump block some stuff for some days. But
Yeah.
I kind of value that 1 point of toughness. It clears out a few things before they grow. 2 more copies of Deft Deflection, 1 more copy of Duress, a Forced Shutdown, 3 copies. Battles, creatures, or enchantments. I mean, that's pretty relevant. And then 2 go blank, kind of partner up there with the Homesick. Faces of the Faceless. So that's the graveyard hosing card of choice here in this deck, and then 2 Crumbling Runes to deal with some non-basic lands with abilities, which there are quite a few actually we're seeing. So
Yeah. All right. I'll let you take the lead on the next deck. I'm going to try and troubleshoot my microphone issues because it popped out like another 3 times
sounds
there.
great. Works for me. I mean, this is one that I can talk about, so it's perfect. We're up to Kumrak's Mono Red. I like how it's in parentheses aggro. If you've been playing or checking out League, this should not be a big surprise. We're running 25 creatures. Most of them don't cost much to throw out here. 4 copies of Emblazoned Prophet, 4 copies of Ignited Soul, 4 copies of Fang of the Pale Thorn, 4 Cash Thrashers. We've got 4 Rosebone Firebrands, 4 Fabricated Anomalies, and a Brazen Burglar here at the top. So pretty much this deck is everything is low to the ground. It's cheap, but each one of them does a lot. I mean, Prophet's going to be pinging for extra damage. The Menace on Ignited Soul and Emblazoned Prophet is pretty relevant. They grow thanks to cards like Fabricated Anomaly. Firebrand just starts big as a 3/3 Wither Haste. Cash Thrasher juices you up, and Fang of the Pale Thorn just gives you that extra fuel. So even though you get rid of their 2/1, you're going to get some cards back from it. Incense should be no surprise. 4 copies of Blade Flourish, 4 copies of Bleeding Out, and then 4 copies of Coordinated Shot. What's nice about all of these is they go to any target, so you don't have to run the risk of something like Strangle, where you're only dealing with your opponent's things. If you have to throw these to the face, you absolutely can. Blade Flourish and Bleeding Out have the additional ability of chipping away at smaller toughness things, redirecting some of that damage to the face. And then Coordinated Shot. It's got flashback. So if you have to sacrifice a creature, you've got a few of them lying around. I mean, you can do worse than sacrificing a Fang of the Pale Thorn, pick up the card that you need, do the 3 damage to face, and take the win. Lands here shouldn't be too surprising. We're high on mountains. 2 copies of Grip Festivarium as a land that can become a finishing threat. And then if you might have realized it's not really just the red deck, well, that's because there are some sideboard cards here that require that blue. Temple of Origins, Misty Peaks, Rousing Paths, and Primal Fissures bring us to the sideboard. We're just going to skip down to the second card here, Advance of Rune and Whisper. Pretty much one of the only ways that these sort of like mono red deck is going to deal with something that's like really big. The fact that it's a 1 mana flash ETB means that you can probably get through some annoying wards. You can deal with a leveled up life hacker. There's a lot of stuff that this deals with that a regular red deck would stumble and struggle with. But otherwise, Brazen Burglar, 3 more copies to deal with any of these life gains or, creatures opponent controls leaving the battlefield type shenanigans. 4 Advance of Fire and Faith, deal with low to the ground decks. And then 4 Crumbling Towers. If you need the inevitability and you got to take somebody's face off, you could do worse than a Crumbling Tower.
Yeah, I do think I have my microphone issues sorted out. But yeah, this is a
Sweet.
really, really lean red aggro deck. Been really surprising seeing Kumrak between last month with World and now this month and this season in general. So far, really push a lot on mono red and really get that experience with red aggro has been really fun to watch.
It's an interesting deck. I wonder if there's going to be more people who are going to be on this side of the deck because this is the first one that we see. So
yeah.
Alrighty, well, we're moving down to Silver, who is playing in Esper. You want to try taking this one so we can give your microphone a test and see how it goes?
Yeah, this is a... Wow, I'm surprised not playing the card I had seen Silver really experimenting with in this package. But this is an Esper control deck trying to put some weight behind Urgent Investigations as a 5-mana draw 4. It is 2 an Esper for an instant. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. You can flip 4 cards that share no card types from among them and put them into your hand. The remaining go to the bottom in a random order. This is one of the decks where the battle change really hurts, but the only enchantments in the deck are the battles, so it doesn't hurt that much. The build of this deck that I got really used to seeing was with the new Beckon the Beyond, the Wish that finds Ashiok, Black Planeswalkers, Eldrazi, or Horrors from your sideboard. But it looks like Silver has opted not to really push that direction. The big Planeswalker that Silver was really getting off of that was Casimier's Bound in Flesh. 5 mana, 3 loyalty, blue-black Planeswalker, can uptick to strategic planning, can downtick to pop a creature or Planeswalker and gain you 2 life. And at your end step, you have to discard a card. Then if there are 5 more card types among cards in your graveyard, which is something that Urgent Investigation is already asking you to make happen, you transform Casimir's, otherwise you just draw a card to replace whatever you discarded. When you transform Casimir's, he becomes He Who Shed His Death. Has a lot of words on it, but the important things are just that the +1 and -2 on the front face get a whole lot better. The +1 gets you 2 cards instead of just 1. The -1 obviously is a -1 instead of a -2. Exiles the target instead of destroying it and gains you 5 life instead of 2. -6 is now gained here as well to exile top X cards of each opponent's library, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard, can really rapidly put your opponent into a panic mode of running out of cards very rapidly. And the most important thing on He Who Shed His Death, honestly, is that passive. This Planeswalker has protection from mana values less than the number of loyalty counters on him. So this is a thing that you can kind of stare down these black-red and red aggro decks and mid-range decks and just like pick off their 3-drop, gain 5 life, and they cannot kill this.
Yeah, if I see her resolve this, the game's not going unless you're already in a very advantageous position where you can afford to do some stuff. The fact that it's protection, oh my gosh, that stops so many things.
Otherwise, this is just sort of a lot of the best things to be doing in Esper right now. Warden of Depths is something that really fell off after its first season, but I think it's still just an absolutely stellar card. Lets you play cards from your graveyard as though they have flash and surface at each end step and each ending phase. And makes your first spell on each opponent's turn cost blue and a black less to cast, so you can play this on turn 6, tap out for it, and still hold up a quench.
Mm-hmm.
Lutra Inquisios is a nice little bit of a cantrip that can fill your graveyard, then rebuy one of the cards you milled this way, and you can also mill your opponent for 3 if you're kind of just trying to deck them out over the course of the game, grind your matchup. Draconos Magistus, another bit of interaction here. This is a way for between Inquisios and Draconos Magistus for urgent investigations to find more interaction beyond just the instant that you grab, because these only count as creatures for investigations. There's one other Planeswalker in a singleton copy of Dutiful Wanderer. The -3 is not at its best here. There's not really many things you're looking to flicker on your side of the table, but this can still just pick off opposing creatures and swing in for 3 with double strike and indestructible each turn, and just, lock your opponent from meaningfully swinging at you or the Dutiful Wanderer.
Yeah. The fact that it's 4 or less is actually kind of funny with all these really cheap creatures that grow.
Yeah, but this is actually like really, really backbreaking against specifically something like tokens. As they start building up those anthems, this can actually punish them for doing so, which is really nice, and really inhibit their ability to push wide. Instance, besides the 2 urgent investigations, full playsets of each of Twilight Ambush for removal, Fateful Ascent for more removal, and then Overrule Will as the quench of choice. Milling your graveyard, milling yourself, filling your graveyard. Yeah. Casimir's really appreciates. Stargazing as one of the as the only playset sorcery here, alongside 2 Beyond Comprehension as one of the keyboard wipes, and 2 Scandalous Revelation, a beneficiary of the Cliques of Nyland buff patch that has not really gotten to see its day in court yet. 5 mana sorcery, 2 and an Esper as much like Urgent Investigations. Draw 3, then discard any number of cards. When you do, destroy all non-land permanents with mana value X or less, where X is the number of cards you discarded, and then you gain X life. So even just at a bare minimum, this is 5 mana, draw 3, discard 0 cards, destroy all tokens.
Yep. I mean, all your threats are what, 5 mana and up technically? So if you have to nuke everything that's small on the board, you're coming out ahead.
I actually do wonder, do you destroy all tokens if you discard 0 cards? Because it's when you do discard any number of cards. I wonder.
That's a good question.
Might be something we see a rule get called on at some point, but yeah, Scandalous Revelation still just really solid bit of draw and flexible removal, flexible sweeper rather. 2 copies of Clash at Orith Cross as the last of the sweepers. This could be a sweeper that you get alongside a second sweeper from sorcery, off of an Urgent Investigations. 5 mana, 5 defense battle that gets to blow up all creatures if cast from your hand. At 3 defense, it makes 2/2 white knight creature tokens with vigilance, and when it's defeated, whenever you attack, you gain life equal to the number of attacking creatures. Lastly, 2 copies of the Kanai Stone as the 1 artifact in the main deck. This is a really strong draw engine. 4 mana, tap it to draw 2 and discard 1. And if you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you instead may put a card you own from outside the game into your hand, functionally giving you 15 additional draws before you actually properly deck out. So you can really grind harder than an opponent so long as this gets to stick in play. 24 lands, there is a solid mix of duels and fetches and basics, and then 1 copy of Chasm of the Silent Covenant as the creature land of choice.
4/4. I mean,
4/4 Vigilance, really good. Sideboard here is 3 copies of Helio Spire, we've already talked about, really good graveyard hate. 2 Stag of the Broken Crown as some anti-control tech. 6 mana, 6/6 flash that can't be countered, has ward 3, enters tapped if it was cast from exile, and you can cast it from exile by chanting it for a blue and a black onto one of your sorceries to cast that spell at instant speed and make that uncounterable as well. Not sure the chanting is going to happen too often, but can use this to slip in Urgent Investigations through an opposing counterspell, or can use this to kind of slip a Beyond Comprehension onto the stack in the middle of your opponent's combat, so you can kind of just leverage this to pick off things your opponent just cast. 3 copies of Aspis Venefear to try and shore up the lower curve go wide decks. 3 Listen In, the first time we've seen this, to kind of pick out enchantments, battles, and creatures from the opponent's hand. Also bully them from graveyards.
And the graveyard.
And make sure that anything that gets out of the hand doesn't go to graveyard at all, so no accidentally enabling graveyard decks there.
Big fan of that hand attack.
Yeah. 2 more copies of Beyond Comprehension for the matchups where you just really want the sweepers, and then 2 copies of Golden Bloom of the Silenced, of course.
This is just really funny. Honestly, like, this deck can just be like, all right, sweep every turn until you hit your win button, and then push the button, right? Like,
and the adventure creatures are just really good win buttons in their own right as well.
I like this a lot. I liked it
Yeah.
when I saw it in League, and I'm liking it here.
Alrighty.
We're down to Elite Wizards Medium Red. I'll take this one. A few cards that we've seen, but honestly, no, quite a few new stuff. We've got starting off with two Cackling Igniters here. New card from the Innistrad set. So 1/1 haste when it dies, it pings for a damage. And then you can bring it back for 4 mana at sorcery speed, and it comes back as a, I think it's the equivalent of a Curse of the Bleeding Heart, right? It pings the opponent or the person who's cursed for 1 damage at the beginning of their upkeep. So honestly, not bad. 4 copies of Red Hot Rider. This is not a new card. We've seen this for a while. 1/1 Menace with Corrupt. When it enters, if you control a permanent with greater mana value, and I mean, these are the only 1 drops for creatures, so pretty much all your other creatures are slightly above the curve. You get to exile the top card of your library. You can play it on any turn a creature you control dealt damage to a player. Um, I really love this card. I think 1 drops that give you a nice boost of like 1 point of extra staying power or something are really nice rather than just being like constant steamrolls. And Red Hot Rider and Cackling Igniter really do it for me. Ash Addled Pyromaniac. 3/1. When it dies, you get to pick one. You either get a 1/1 Red Devil that can ping when it dies, or a Red Ardor enchantment token. With sack this token, one of your creatures gets +1/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. Pretty modal card. I really like what it's got going on. Cash Thrasher, we haven't seen it in a deck yet, but I mean, this is a mainstay here in Rev. 2/2 haste. As long as it's your turn, it's got first strike. Beginning of combat, get a sacrifice of memory, and when it attacks, you cash the top card of your library. So this card just does so much, honestly.
Oh yeah, this is one of the biggest reasons to care about rogues, honestly.
Yep,
Outside of anything that Valir brought for the rogue package, Cash Thrasher is probably still the best rogue in the format.
absolutely. 4 Fabricated Anomalies. I mean, it's here. It's doing its stuff. You've got a lot of stuff that have 1 point of power, and Fabricated Anomaly just does so much to get those into a much stronger position. Um, I think this is the first time, no, second time I've seen this card. Someone mentioned it to me a couple of days ago. Precursor to Calamity. Menace, Haste, and Wither for a 4/4. Players can't gain life. Damage cannot be prevented. It's in the main board, so you're going to have to respect the fact that the medium red deck actually has a way of going through your life gain. And I mean, not that damage prevention is frequent, I guess, outside of what the Unravel, right? Or is
I
that the
have
only
seen
one?
people speculate on Turbo Fog to
Okay,
try and
well,
mitigate some of the like just super rush down decks that are going around right now. So
that's a little terrifying. Well, I mean, it's there. I mean, to be fair, this is a Menace Haste Wither 4/4 for 4.
yeah,
That's the part that's scary. The rest is just added juice.
yeah.
3 copies of Photorach. We already talked about this nice juicy dragon. It does a lot of stuff at 5 mana. Blade Flourish and Burn to Obscurity. So speaking of, here's the 4 damage instant speed. It also goes around indestructible, and it exiles instead of destroys, which is pretty relevant, I've seen, for quite a few decks. No surprise with Advance of Fire and Faith, cleaning out the smaller decks, and Shigane Manor Burns is what you want if you are trending towards medium rather than a bunch of 1 drops. So, lands, nothing out of the ordinary. We've got 18 mountains. This is mono red, so we've got 2 copies of Observatory. I mean, this is just a really cheap rummage. I mean, you're not
Yeah.
unhappy to have this out. And then Desolate Pinnacle, 3 damage to a player or planeswalker for 3. If you're gonna get to 7 cards in the graveyard, sorry. I mean, this deck can do that. You're running Fabricated Anomaly. You're able to bin things pretty quickly. I'm not surprised. You can also discard cards off of Shigana Manor Burns, so that extra bit of reach, and it's just 3 mana. That's actually decently cheap. So,
Yeah.
sideboard Impromptu Exit, respecting the fact that there's going to be probably a lot of tokens, 1/1s and whatnot lying around. The fact that it can actually tag a Planeswalker for 1 extra point of damage, I'd be interested in seeing which Planeswalkers have downticks that put them within Impromptu Exit range. Might be something to keep in mind. Stellar Flare, which we've discussed as a way of dealing big damage to small threats that grow, among other things. Crucible of the Burning Sun for the graveyard, and then 3 Tempting Puzzle Box. I've never read this card before.
May I take the wheel
You
here.
can go for it. There's
So
like
this
three
is
cards worth of text on this thing.
This is a 4-mana artifact. At the start of combat on your turn, you exile top card of your library with a puzzle counter on it and may play it this turn. If you don't play it this turn, it is gone, quote unquote, for good. Then, if there are 3 or more unique mana values among cards you own in exile with puzzle counters on them, you may transform the puzzle box into Unshackled Spite Fiend, a 4/4 flying menacing devil. When it deals combat damage to a player, you may cast a non-land card chosen at random from among non-land cards you own in exile with puzzle counters on them without paying its mana cost. So this is the like draw engine, grind engine in place of something like
it's the Crumbling Tower, right?
Yeah, it's in place of something like Crumbling Tower. This just triggers at combat, so you don't have to worry about trying to hit land drops like Crumbling Tower does. Rather than Crumbling Tower just popping and dealing damage to the opponent based on the number of things that you haven't played that it's exiled. This not only can just swing multiple times for 4 over multiple turns. This is really good in multiples because your second tempting puzzle box still sees any cards that were in exile with puzzle counters from the first one. And the Unshackled Spite Fiend it transforms into will also then see those same cards in exile. And though if you transform into Spite Fiend the turn you play the puzzle box, it wouldn't have haste, there's no reason to force yourself to do so unless you could give it haste in some capacity, because if you've got the ability to transform it the turn you play it, you can still just guarantee to transform it the turn after anyways. It's a really, really strong card. I'm really glad we're seeing it somewhere here. I will also say, you mentioned impromptu exit tagging planeswalkers for 1 damage. This might actually be relevant. Casimir's 3 loyalty to start with down ticks by 2, putting himself at 1 loyalty. Even if he transforms into He Who Shed His Death, he gets protection from mana values less than, not less than or equal. So you could impromptu exit kill a He Who Shed His Death stuck at 1 loyalty.
I was also thinking of stuff like, let's say you've got a, not that it's highly likely, but let's just say, you know, a Siren. Any of your Valiers, let's say you're triggering it, right? You feel the need to flip over to that back face and you use the 0 or something with 1 loyalty. That's a way of cleaning that up, you know? Or Soya, even though I haven't seen a Soya in a list yet, but yeah.
You also haven't seen Vi yet.
Not yet, but we haven't seen a Rebels yet, so
so we'll see.
I'm really wondering if this is going to be a wow, Rebels is really scary.
Yeah, I wonder if this is going to be the same case
against it.
Yeah, we saw this a lot with Envoy of the Fallen over the past season. So much concern about Envoy of the Fallen, especially in February and March, and then it was just absent.
That's so funny. Well, we'll see as we go down a little later. So 11:41. I've got about 20 minutes left with you, and then you're gonna have to solo the rest of this thing. So we'll
try and go because it looks like we're like maybe halfway there.
But
so much to talk about.
The likelihood is that as we go down, we've seen some of these decks, right?
Hopefully.
This is such a diverse meta. I love everything about this.
Wait,
all right, Catalyst.
Would you like to take this one?
Sure, yeah. Shikon on my cord till I revolt. It's starting off with 3 copies of one of my favorite 1-drops of all time. One of the only cards in Revolution that is currently in standard rotation that I've actually considered cutting from the cube for power purposes.
Wow.
It's Melon. This card is terrifying in cube. Yeah. It's Melon Defense Attorney. It's a 1/1 for 1. How bad could it be? Well, it creates the pledge, right? You create a white clique enchantment token, and if you already control it, you get to activate its pledge instead. And the part that's scary is it's tap, choose a color from among other permanents you control. Hey, wouldn't you know it, the cliques are 3-colored, right? Another target creature you control gains hexproof from that color until end of turn, which would be pretty good already, but it also can't be blocked by creatures of that color. So this is a really scary 1-drop to have in what's looking to be the sort of like green-white Rosen, Hope's Trail. Yeah, so these creatures are going to get big, and you're not going to be able to deal with them. So, oh boy. 4 copies of Husk for Dracolite. We're putting ourselves up on the curve. A copy of Containment Seraph here in the main board. 2/1 flyer. When it enters, you exile up to 1 target non-token creature you don't control. And when it leaves, the exiled card's owner gets to draw X cards and gain X life, where X is half that card's mana value. It's sort of like your what's the one in Canon Magic that exiles and then gives you back like an illusion or a spirit? I'm blanking really hard.
Skyclave Apparition.
Thank you so much. Apparition. Yeah, so it's it just deals with stuff. I mean, and it's a flying 2/1 threat. And if you're going to make things bigger with Hope's Trail Ranger, I mean, you could do worse. Rosenclad and Guilt, just pretty much one of the cards that's the most disgusting in terms of actually putting counters on. In fact, it actually works pretty well with cards like Redeemer of Hollowed Flesh and Containment Seraph, because if you're able to Husk Forger out a Rosen, let's say on turn 3 with that 1 mana extra, the fact that your second spell will be reduced by 2 means 3 drops are like particularly nice off of Rosen, I've been finding. Being able to drop those in for just a single mana has been pretty nice. Redeemer of Hollowed Flesh, 2 and a green for a 3/3, beginning of your upkeep. Your opponent has to exile a card from their graveyard. See, there's that main board graveyard hate. That's just doing a lot here in this GP.
Yeah.
Create a 1/1 white soldier. If they exile the creature, you get a treasure token if they exile the land. And if you didn't create any tokens this way, you put a counter on Redeemer of Hollowed Flesh. People are on Primal Fissures. People are on cards like that are going to be in the yard. People are fetching. So, I'm not surprised. And, you're not actually sad if you're not, getting rid of stuff. You're not going wide, but you're going tall. It's a 4/4 for 3, and it's pretty good. Hope's Trail Ranger. This is one of the new cards here in Innistrad. It's a 1/2 Vigilance Reach for 3, which might seem a little anemic until you read the fact that Concord triggers at combat. So it's already going to put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control the turn it enters. It could be itself, but if you have 4 or more card types among your permanents, you get a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control instead. And I'm seeing enchantments and battles. So again, one of the big perks of the fact that battles are now all enchantments is it already counts for 2 types for Concord, which just came in, which is, pretty fortuitous. So you've got your creatures, your lands, and then you have your enchantment battles, right? And
Yep.
that's it. You've got the Concord actually activated. And it's on 17 creatures, but if you go down and look at some of these enchantments, you'll see that they are also spitting out bodies as well. We've got Fateful Ascent as the premium removal for this deck. 3 copies of A Journey Begins. Can dig for any permanents with mana value 3 or less, so that pretty much hits everything that's a creature and almost all your enchantments
Yep.
outside of Harvest Tide and Revolt of the Palace. So this is going to hit a lot of what you want: lands, creatures, and or enchantments. So, and they picked the classic art for Journey Begins. So,
Yeah.
enchantments, a lot of them. 4 copies of Advance of the Saint in March. We've already talked about this card before. 2 copies of Sanctum of Repression. Great piece of removal. I think looking at the list that we've been seeing, this thing tags a lot. You can re-pick up a Containment Seraph, which is actually quite neat, right?
Yep.
So there's a few things you can do. Copy of Castle's Belly, 2 copies of Advance of the Quiet Moon. This is a new one here. It exiles a non-land permanent until it leaves, so it Banishing Lights, and then if you defeat it, whenever a non-token creature you control leaves the battlefield, you get to create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. You've got Harvest Tide Procession, beginning of your end step. Create your choice of either a 1/1 white human or a treasure token. And then here's the Concord. If there are 4 or more card types among permanents you control, if an effect would create 1 or more tokens under your control, it creates that many +1. So you're going to start spitting out just a little bit more juice left and right. And then Revolt of the Palace, which we've already seen before. Kind of a big top-end way of just churning out that value and then eventually giving double strike to your big white board. What do you think?
Yeah, that looks like a really solid deck. PTM pointed out Advance of the Sainted March into Hope's Trail Ranger. This satisfying Concord on its own, just by being in play, enabling turn 3 Hope's Trail Ranger coming into play, immediately putting
Oh,
plus one
true.
plus one
Yep.
counters on both of the tokens that Advance made. Really, really strong. One of the
That's
things that
gross.
didn't click for me upon first glance as well is Melon also gets you a solid bit of progress towards getting Concord
That's true,
online,
because it
because
is an
that is a
enchantment
creature and an
creature.
enchantment
Yeah.
in the same little 1-drop. I
You know
did
what?
I did
You know what?
initially
I
think the
didn't.
name was referring to contest coordinator, but I learned quickly.
Concord. I can see where the mistake happens. You know what? I hadn't thought about it, but pledge with Concord. Hmm. Something to keep in mind going forward. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Mana base is pretty typical. It's just all pieces of mana. Love it here. Sideboard. Yep, cards that I've seen before. Virtualize the Onomastic 2/2 for 2 when you can pick a non-land card name, and if they want to cast spells with that chosen name, it's not going to happen. Um, when you do, that player creates an XX colorless construct artifact creature token where X is the spell's mana value. So they're going to get a big vanilla instead of whatever they were planning on killing you with. Masksmith. It's nice to see. It's nice to see the variety, right? Like we've seen a few different creatures in the sideboard, especially the green ones that can get rid of artifacts or enchantments. This one's running Mass Smith. We've seen the one that was a druid earlier on, and we've seen Hungry Blob. So it's nice to see different people trying out different pieces depending on what the plan is. The fact that this exiles and it's a 3/2 body for 2, I mean, I really like Mass Smith personally.
Oh yeah.
And it hits graveyard. So honestly, there's a little bit of extra stuff going on there. One of the cards you were talking about earlier today, I think this is the first copies of Cloistered Haunt that we get to see. This is
Hmm.
exactly the type of deck that I would expect to see it in the sideboard. Putting counters on Cloistered Haunt and making it bigger is terrifying. This thing's already a 1/4 that chumps up quite a bit of the board and attacks pretty freely. Stops these stops a lot of decks with the non-basic lands entering tapped, and stops a lot of the multi-cast decks from doing stuff. Memorial to the First Shaper. Whenever a non-land permanent entering causes a triggered ability of a permanent to trigger, counter it unless its controller pays 2. So it's the absolute opposite of what you want your Panharmonicons to do. It stops them from doing anything. And then Crucible of the Burning Sun, dealing with graveyards here. A lot of graveyard in this, right? We've got, yeah, the Mass Smiths. We've got Crucible. It's good. I'm happy that there's respect for that all along the way.
Yeah.
Um, Lost of the. I'm not quite sure what you're trying to say there, Red Panthers. I. You want to help me out, Coveted? If maybe I'm missing something, I think
I
he
think
lost
lost of the last one
close to the last.
or close to the
Oh, I.
last.
No, we're not. We're not
Oh,
near the
oh my
bottom.
lord!
We're halfway
Typos on
through.
mobile. These decks are looking sweet.
We're halfway through. we're
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
not at the
We've
bottom
got a
yet.
ways to go. With that in mind, you have like 10
Uh,
more minutes, right? You want to cover one
I've got
more?
about 10 minutes, and then I'm getting up pretty early for a volleyball league match. So,
All right.
we'll do the one or two maybe next ones, and then if I have to go, I have to go, and I will catch the rest of the stream if you're going to continue on without me afterwards. So
All right.
we are at All Who Wander, right?
Yep.
Yes. Red white counter spells, which is such a funny deck name. I'm sorry. I'm
It's
like
great. I love it.
I'm I love it. All right. Well, hey, right off the bat, we got Moon Silver Archangel. Oh, this card is so cool. 3/3 flash flyer. It's XX white white. Thank you for good luck on the volleyball league. I'm just spectating. I'm thankfully not playing tomorrow morning. I'm just there to cheer on my friends. When it enters, you got to choose X. So if your X is 0, you got a 3/3 flash flyer for 3. And if you have the density to cast this reliably, that's a pretty decent body. But if you can get to 5, if you can get to more, you either get monuments or cloisters. So either your field is bigger or you're exiling something that your opponent has. This is a really sick card.
Oh yeah.
Planeswalkers, we've got Kefella, Endlight Catalyst, 3 red red for 4. It's got Wither, and your instants and sorcery spells that you control have Wither. I also have never seen this card before. +2, 2 damage to any target with Wither. That's really gross. 0 creates 2/1/1 red spirit creature tokens with Wither. I'm sensing a theme. I'm
Yep.
sensing a theme, Scribble. I figured this one out. And then -X, you can exile an instant or sorcery card with mana value X from your graveyard, and you can cast a copy of it without paying its mana cost. This is a pretty nice 5-drop, honestly. The fact that the 2 damage to any target is on the +2, that's
Really,
really
really
fun.
strong.
Really, really
Um,
strong. Fateful Ascents, we've talked about this one. We've talked about Strangle as well. This is just great removal, and I'm surprised this is the first copies of Deafening Clarion we're seeing. I guess we've been seeing a lot more of 4-point sweepers and some bigger stuff, but yeah, it's either 3 damage to each creature, or your creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn. I mean, I've seen that second mode used, even though pretty much you're using it for the first mode, but great stuff. I'm thinking, looking at Moon Silver Archangel, I mean, this is definitely where, you probably want the monuments to make sure your Deafening Clarion doesn't, like, pick off your premium creatures. But, I mean, if you're sweeping first on 3 and then dropping a big Moon Silver Archangel, you're winning, right? Like, you're doing great. Enchantments, no surprise, 4 copies of Shigana Manor Burns. The Manor continues to do great stuff. We've got Inner Inferno. Once each turn, when you put a counter on a permanent, you can exile the top card of your library. Wouldn't you know, this works with Wither. You may play that card until you next exile a card, pardon me, with Inner Inferno. And just like some of the other cards we've seen, it actually does have a way of self fulfilling itself 1 and a red, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature you control. Activate only as a sorcery.
Important to note, not only does this enable with Wither, this enables every single turn with Shigani Manor Burns.
Yeah, because you're just putting a counter every turn. Yep.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it's once each turn.
Yeah,
Because it also works with
so is a
Planeswalkers,
Saga.
right? So
yeah, it works with Planeswalkers, works with Sagas. It's really good.
great stuff. Advance of the Quiet Moon, who we just saw in the previous deck. 4 Cleansing Starfires. Oh, okay, well, there's more stuff. This one deals 4 damage. It has Wither, and once each turn, when you put 1 or more counters on a permanent, you may gain that much life. Yeah, this is a lot of like resiliency here.
Yeah.
And speaking, yeah, go ahead.
This kills Lifehacker off rip if they have
Yep.
not gotten to level it up yet. If they have, it puts it down to a 1/1.
Yep.
Gains you 4 life in the process. Gains you life when your future Advance of the Quiet Moons come into play or your Cafellas come into play. Yeah, Cleansing Starfire, sweet.
And speaking of a card that you talked about before liking, Atomic Cores, which puts charge counters on itself, which triggers all the counter stuff. So, I like this a lot.
Built up a lot of mana for Moonsilver Archangel as well.
Yeah, between the Shigana Manor, between the Atomic Core and everything else. Yeah, no kidding. Going into the lands here, we've actually got a few. No, we've got two stack Conviviplexes. So, I mean, I've been really impressed by these.
Oh yeah,
The fact that it's just level 3+ to get there, it is reachable. And sometimes, I mean, I played with Heap Ludicon. Is that the one I think I played? The one that's the mono black one. And boy, I mean, the final body on the level 3+, they're big. These are
thing's
big
colossal.
creature limits. Yeah. I was really, really pleased with it.
I believe it's like a 1/4 to a 6/8.
Yeah. 2/4 to a 6/8.
2/4.
Yeah, the 2/4 was really relevant, and then the 6/8 was really great. And the Death Touch helped a lot in the matchup. I will say, and I made this mistake, and I'm letting people know. Everybody probably knows this but me. When it says this land is also a creature, it doesn't say is a creature, it says also. You can still tap these for mana. If you watch my match that I recorded, you'll notice that as soon as I animate these, I forget that they can tap for black, and I kind of just leave them as anyway. So just keep that in mind, people. You can actually use them for more than just blocking. We're in the sideboard. We have Temple of Origins, Wind Beaten, Primal Fissure, Mountain Plains, and Spiraling Canyon. Yeah, the art is so great, by the way, on that card. It's so teeny, you can't really see the face, but if ever you check out my channel in the future, look at the thumbnail that I made for that one episode. I mean, obviously don't tab now, but I zoomed in the face and the quality. That image is super high resolution. So
on Stack
I was really impressed. On Heap
Ludicon.
Ludicon, the one you were just checking out. So yeah, funny stuff there. Sideboard.
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
you got
the little face here.
Yep, I love it. So Helia Leyspire, we've seen that. I love that we still have Offset Daemon being played. I think this card can still do stuff. I'm happy to still see it. It's in the sideboard, but I mean, maybe you need one more recursive threat that's going to hang around and just keep coming back. It can still do that. I know there's a little bit of fear of this thing dies to a lot more than it used to, especially with Blade and like Strangles and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's still a flying lifelink haste 3/2. If they don't have something to deal with it right away, you're still going to chip in, you're still going to gain life. And if you're not exiling it, it's coming back. So
yeah. I think burning removal on this is a losing equation.
Absolutely. End of Mutations, the shiny version. 3 red. It can't be countered first strike haste 5/5 whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell. If they have an attack this turn, End of Mutations will smack them for 5 damage. Yeah.
Colossive anti-control card.
Yep. And
I think I said
Oberus Ley
colossive.
Pilgrim.
Massive, colossal.
Massive. And then Oberus Ley Pilgrim. It's nice to have another walker here with counters. It makes an 0/4. You gain life. It exiles artifacts and enchantments, which is pretty much what you want from it. And then, it animates artifacts, creatures, and enchantments.
A ton of enchantments into play.
It's exactly what I was
can
thinking.
Just
And they're
murder
cheap.
People.
Yep. It absolutely can. They just become 4/4s.
Yeah.
Well, actually, even funnier than that, right? Because it's artifacts and enchantments. So your Shigana is putting out treasures. You know, good stuff.
Any of the tokens you make off of Moonsilver Archangel.
Yep. I want to see Atomic Core kill someone.
Oh, yeah.
I want to see Atomic Core punch someone for 4 damage. Let's do one last one together, and then I'll I think
All
I'll have to
right.
leave for the night, unfortunately.
I do want to make one quick note on All Who Wanders
Yeah,
deck,
go for it.
which is just that every time I have seen this deck, I have seen Cafella's -X look a little bit better because All Who Wanders playing a bit more instants and sorceries that can actually meaningfully use this.
Hmm.
I think Fateful Ascent was the first one that started getting in here where you could actually downtick to play something off of Cafella. But Strangle
Hmm.
and Deafening Clarion are so good off of Cafella. Both of
Yes.
these getting Wither
Yeah.
is so
Wither.
monumental.
It's very
It's
gross.
great. Anyways, Zangi's got terrors.
I like this deck a lot, I will say.
Yeah, take it away.
Uh, we've got right off the bat, we got 4 copies of Ominous Frogs. I've seen this, and you might notice there's like Glimmervale lakes in the mana base. I've seen some really sick Ominous Frog sort of chaining before, so it's nice to see this card. It's a 2/3 for blue and a red. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Put a croak counter on it, and then if you manage to get to 4 croak counters, you may remove them all and transform it. And it's 4 or more, so don't feel the need to transform if you really just want to keep the pinging around. The backside's a Scourge of Vustral. It's a 4/4. Whenever it attacks, you choose an instant or sorcery card in your graveyard with mana value 3 or less at random. You may exile it. If you do, cast a copy of it without paying its mana cost. So what's interesting is with Ominous Frogs is sometimes you actually want to keep a few on the front side. You can get one on the back swing to recoup some of those spells, but it's the 2/3 for 2 that also chucks out damage, has what I've seen has been really relevant, more so than anything else. But
Oh yeah.
when you get to the late game and everything's in your yard, because that's what you're doing with this deck with the terrors between Angler and Ripper, yeah, you're going to be happy to turn something into a 4/4, start clobbering, getting your spells back. So it's a terror deck. So here are the terrors. It's Angler of the Crushing Sea. It's a 6 and a blue for a 5/5 that costs 1 less for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. When it enters, target player mills 3 cards, and you can actually get this chanting. So you can pay a blue, and then you can add on target player mills 3 cards to another instant and sorcery, right, that you cast.
Mhm.
So you want to mill. You want to have a really big graveyard. There's a lot in this deck besides um, the 2 terrors. I mean, we're going to look at Geist Blaster's Breakthrough. I mean, you have a lot of cards that are going to mill, and we'll really appreciate having that graveyard so big. Ripper, terror number 2, we got Cordelia's Ripper, 7 red, red. A little harder sometimes, I've noticed, to weave in with the mana. The double red sometimes can be more difficult, but it costs 1 less for each instant, sorcery, and or vampire. So, you know, if you mill in another Cordelia's Ripper by mistake, it's still going to count. This one's a Flying Haste 3/4 that whenever it attacks, deals 2 damage to any target. This is also a really disgusting card to copy with Glimmervale Lake for 3 mana. Because if you can get Cordelia's Ripper out for just 2, for 5 mana, you have some really gross things going out. And the fact that the 2 damage is going to any target is absolutely relevant. So
Yeah.
these are just great cards. This is like the reason to be playing Terrors, these 2 things. Instants. There's a lot of them, and you're not going to be surprised that a lot of them either cantrip or fill up the yard or use the yard in some way. So top to bottom, we've got 3 copies of Geist Blaster's Breakthrough. Deals X damage to a creature or planeswalker. X is 1, plus the number of differently named instants and sorceries in your graveyard. I mean, there's just enough here. It's not like there's singleton or anything, but there's enough that you're going to be able to tag out most of the creatures and planeswalkers that you will want to deal with. And it does have an extra mode. When you discard this card during your turn, you can pay 3 red, red, and if you do, create a 5/5 red elemental creature token with haste. And there are quite a few, you know, it's I would say it's not the easiest way of doing that. I mean, I'm not seeing
I don't
like
think there's any way to. I don't
stargazing.
think there's any way to discard it, at least in the main.
There's one way to do it, and I've seen it happen in League. If you have
Uh,
7 cards and
yeah,
you go
max
to
hand
8
size.
and you discard to max hand size, I've seen it once. It was really
That does
interesting.
mean you're making a 5/5 with haste at your end step.
I know. I just thought it was really funny that someone actually did that. I was like, oh,
Oh yeah.
well, all right. Thought Scour, we already talked about this card. It's exactly what this deck wants, right? Mill 2, draw a card for blue. Discern, we talked about it as well. Draw a card for blue, instant flashback, 2 and a blue. What I really like about this deck is that Discern, the flashback, you got to be careful when you're starting to pop them out of your yard. Like if you're not quite getting what you need and you have to start cashing these in and then it's making your terrors cost a little more, there's a really like skill testing moment there where you have to like weigh the -1 to the +1 in the yard and stuff. So that's been really interesting. Thistral Charm. I mean, this does a lot. Deals with creatures, deals with non-creature permanent spells, and can create tokens that are copies of your own tokens. I mean, primarily it's the first two. I don't even know if there's there's the Geist Blaster's token, I guess.
I think that's
any
about
other?
it.
That's it, right?
That's
Yeah.
kind of been the experience with Thistral Charm, is that the token mode is often flavor text.
It's just flavor. We've got Overrule Will. I mean, hey, if you're going to pick a quench, you pick the one that's going to fuel your graveyard, and then Unravel Thoughts. Easy peasy. This has just a lot of modes that are pretty interesting here. It does a lot. Strangle, no surprise either. 2 copies of Path of Scales, which I believe is decently, or I don't know if it got a change now or before, but it's now it's 2 blue. When it enters, you dig for the top 5, 2 to your hand, the rest at the bottom. I've actually seen just how strong defeating Path of Scales can be. The 3 defense that does creatures you don't control get -1, -0 is actually pretty relevant if you were expecting a lot of the token decks to be here. But when you defeat it, starting from there, whenever you cast non-creature, non-battle spells, you copy them. You can choose new targets for the copy. That's really cool.
Yeah.
A lot of value here in the instants and sorceries package that you have. Land base. I mean, a lot of it is mana, and I already brought up the Glimmervale Lakes. The fact that Glimmervale is just 3 and it turns into copies of some truly scary top end, or, and I've seen it, you can turn them into a few copies of Ominous Frogs, and sometimes having 3 frogs, you cast 1 or 2 instants, and you've suddenly done a lot of damage. They're really nuts in multiples.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, moving into the sideboard. Forbidden Treasure, nice to see. I think it's the first copies that we see here in the GP lists. Counters instants and sorceries, and then it searches for all the other ones with the same name and gets rid of them. 3 copies of Electronic Countermeasures. These are also the first copies that we're seeing here. Definitely good. I mean, I'll be honest, the 5 damage to me feels pretty relevant when we're looking at some of the threats that have been scaling.
Absolutely.
And it's if you control a permanent with greater mana value, you exile. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
Path of
5
Scales.
damage at instant speed. Yeah,
Path of Scales,
exactly.
any of your terrors.
Yep. Absolutely. Strangle. Strangle. 4 copies of Burn It All Down. Again, respecting the potential of go wide decks, and 4 copies of Faces of the Faceless to deal with a graveyard. Whew.
Yeah.
We got through a lot, and I'm really sorry to leave you with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 14 decks. Like,
oh no, we didn't even make it to half. I think
Oh
no, we did. We literally made it to the halfway point because I think there's 28.
Oh boy. Well, I think we can do this. I think it'll go a little faster anyway, if we're not bouncing things off of each other and spitballing. I just want to say a big thank you, Coveted, for inviting me over for the first half of the Decklist reveal stream. It's nice to be back in Revolution. My pleasure. It's nice to be here. It's nice to actually be playing in this one. It's nice to know the cards a little more. Providing coverage has been really fun, and I will try and continue to do so during the GP. So absolutely feel free to at commentary people for the GP and or for League. If I'm around, I want to try and do one every day or every couple of days. I want Rev to keep growing. I'm really enjoying this. We have a really strong community, and we have something special here. So
yeah, thank you so much for tagging in. Been absolutely
my pleasure.
Wonderful to see you around the community more. I know you have a lot of other stuff you're busy with as well, but it has been such a joy to have you. So thank you again for tagging in. I hope you rest well. Have fun watching volleyball tomorrow, and have a good rest of your weekend.
When I wake up, I'll be watching the rest of the stream. So catching the second half and seeing what I missed.
The next 2 hours of the stream.
You've got this. Hopefully it's not midnight like it is for me.
No, it is midnight for me as well, but I should be able to get through this a little bit faster.
Fingers crossed for you. Thanks again, Coveted. I'll leave you to the rest of this.
Thank you so much for tagging in. Take care.
And thanks for everyone watching, by the way. Stay tuned. It's keeping going. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Alrighty. That is going to leave us just you and me, folks. Well, you and all of you collectively in chat and me. A couple last notes before we move on from Zangi's deck. Two things. One card that I feel like is a notable exclusion, and one thing that I think is really cool. We'll start with the thing that I think is really cool, which is that the Graveyard Hate here in Face of the Faceless is one that does not disrupt the deck in question here in any capacity. Faces does not really stop your cards in Graveyard and actually protects you and insulates you from your own from opposing Graveyard Hate, so it helps make the Terror's plan a little bit more reliable, which is really nice. So it gets to serve double duty of being your Graveyard Hate and being your Graveyard Protection. Just an absolute wonderful pairing of effects there. The one big notable exclusion here is I brought it up earlier. We'll pull it up here. Research Grant. I absolutely see the rationale behind Path of Scales, and absolutely when you're playing something like Thistral Charm as one of your primary 2-mana spells here, this does get to deal 3 to battle, so can get your Path of Scales down. And I am not going to sit here and say that Path of Scales is suddenly bad after its most recent set of changes. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that, because I'd be a liar if I said that. But I do think that Research Grant is also really good in a shell like this. It fills your graveyard. Pretty trivial to get the 2 or more spells cast, 2 or more cards drawn over 2 turns. And then Progress. The one downside to Progress is that you can't copy the Terrors themselves, but all of your spells outside of the Terrors are 3 mana or less, so that's still a ton of things that you can reasonably duplicate off of a Progress. And you can also copy up Ominous Frogs. Times was putting a lot of respect to how powerful Glimmerveil Lake plus Ominous Frogs is, and in that same respect, Progress getting to let you pay 4 mana, get a pairing of Ominous Frogs. And as of March of the Machine a couple of years ago, token copies of Ominous Frogs can flip into Scourge of Ustro, so that is another bit of value there in case you feel like you just need multiple Scourge of Ustros to really push over the finish line. So yeah, Terrors is a really sweet deck. I'm really glad to see it. Speaking from a place of trauma about Path of Scales Research Grant, both of those cards are so good. Path of Scales brutalized me at the start of last season, and Research Grant brutalized me at the end of last season. They're both really good enchantments. Blue is got some powerful enchantments right now. Granted, Path of Scales was not an enchantment until this month, but I still get to call it one. Up next, we've got Itai Ukul's Weftheart joins the battle. This looks to be a Jund Weftheart deck. Ooh, so 4 Planeswalkers here in the Weftheart. 1 double red and a green for a 5 loyalty Planeswalker. You can either downtick by 1 to make a subroutine token that lets you impulse draw the top card of your library when it runs and play it for that turn. Or more importantly, this is an enchantment birthing pod. -1 sack an enchantment. Search your deck for an enchantment that costs that much +1 and put it directly into play. So we'll go over the enchantments in just a moment, but there are 22 lands here, 4 forests, 1 path, Forlorn Path, 1 mountain, 2 swamps, 4 primal fissures, 4 profane groves, 3 sanguine palaces, 3 urban jungles. Looks to be skewing a bit more black-green primarily than any other color pairing, with like red being sort of a splash color, which is surprising when you're playing a double red Planeswalker. But it feels like almost this is just bonus on top of everything else. So whole lot of enchantments here. We've got a playset of Golden Age, goes and finds a basic when it enters. If you cast a multicolored spell in a turn, you can check off one of the 3 conditions. Once all 3 conditions are checked off, you can flip into Harmony and start exiling multicolored cards at your upkeep from your graveyard to cast copies in the turn. 3, It's Just Business, which is a 1 mana enchantment. Each opponent discards a card when it enters. You can pay 2 and a black and sacrifice it to have each opponent lose 2 life and create a treasure. Not something you're going to be sacrificing super often, but this is just a 1 mana make the opponent discard a card, and you can flip it into any 2-drop off of Weftheart. This is a deck really leveraging the value from battles becoming enchantments. You can search up Advance of Fire and Faith. You can search up Advance of the Empty Throne, and one that we haven't talked about yet, rebuys a non-battle permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Any enchantment you've sacrificed, any Weftheart that has gone, any non-battle enchantment that you've sacrificed, any Weftheart that has died earlier on in the game. When it's defeated, you get landfall, make a 1/1. Advance of the Umbral Bargain, you can get some targeted hand attack off of Weftheart now, which is really nice. There's one Inner Inferno, which there's a place of Shigani Manor Burn, so that can work really nicely. 2 copies of Meeting of the Elites, which is a black and a red, makes a tapped treasure when it enters that can let you cast a turn 3 Weft Heart and flip this into any 3-drop. If you sacrifice an non-land permanent across 2 turns, which Weft Heart does pretty reliably, and so does the treasure token, you get to make it into Aristocracy, which exile top card of your library at your upkeep, and then you can play cards exiled with it as long as you've sacrificed a non-land permanent this turn. To Pact Beyond Death, we've talked about just a really strong card selection tool with some additional value. Clash at Dawnbloom Grove is some non-creature, non-land permanent removal. When it's dealt 2 damage, you make 2 2/2s that can't block, and when it's defeated, your creatures have trample. Pair of Devotion to Grindanu, 2 and a green for a legendary enchantment that mills you for 2 and gains you 3 life when it enters, and then gets to rebuy a land from your graveyard to play. You can then pay 3 a black and a green and transform it, if there are 13 or more cards in your graveyard, into Grindanu's Dark Return, which at your end step exiles a card, chooses a card at random from among permanents in your graveyard and gets it and all other permanents with the same name from your graveyard into play, which is a monumental value engine in the late game. 1 Majesty, which can make some 4/3s with the Weft Heart, and some of the higher cost enchantments here. 2 copies of Orlus's Edict, which gets to let you choose a non-land permanent type when it enters and have each opponent sacrifice a permanent of their choice of that type. So this is an edict you can find off of the Weft Heart, and it just sticks in play from there, so you can Weft Heart it again. You can also, if you have a mercenary, you can sacrifice it as a sorcery for the same cost to do so again. No mercenaries, at least in the main deck. We might see one in the sideboard, but I do not anticipate it. 1 Smolder Away, another new enchantment. 1 a black and a red that at your upkeep you can exile exactly 2 cards from your graveyard. I don't know why it says exactly. I think it should just be exile 2 cards from your graveyard. I don't know if that was a me thing or a Cajun thing. It's too late at night for me to be thinking about this. At your upkeep, you can exile exactly 2 cards from your graveyard. If you do, you draw a card and lose 2 life. At your end step, you can exile exactly 2 cards from your graveyard to deal 2 to each opponent and gain 2 life. So it can be a draw engine, an inevitability engine, can be both if you are just filling your graveyard, which Weft Heart gets to do pretty comfortably. 3 copies of Darkstar Severance up at the top of the curve. 4 mana enchantment, enters and makes a chart token, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, you get to sacrifice a non-land permanent and make a 3/1 elemental with trample and haste. 2 copies of Panic. 2 red, red. When it enters, you may discard a card to deal 4 to target creature or planeswalker, and whenever it runs, you make a 4/4 with menace. And then Heavenly Descent, only findable off of Weft Heart, cannot be cast. 3 red and a white for an enchantment. When it enters, put a -1/-1 counter on each creature. At the beginning of your end step for each permanent, you may choose a counter on it, put an additional counter of that kind on that permanent. So this can keep triggering your Shigani Manor burns. Otherwise, the primary things that you want to be putting more counters on are going to be your Weft Hearts and any creatures with -1/-1 counters on them on the opponent's board, but that's all still fine and dandy. We've already talked about the mana base, so we'll talk about the sideboard, and then I will have to step away for just a brief moment because this has gone on a lot longer than I expected, and we've still got a lot to cover, so I will be stepping away for just a moment. Sideboard is 2 Strangles for small removal, 2 Burn It All Downs for some bigger sweepers, 2 Culling Rituals, similar function, different types of things it's removing. 1 additional copy of Advance of Fire and Faith, 2 additional copies of Advance of the Umbral Bargain, 2 copies of Clash at the Shaded Maw as graveyard hate you can find off of Weft Heart, 1 more copy of Clash at Dawnbloom Grove, 1 more copy of Orlus's Edict, and then the first singleton copy each of Crumbling Tower as some more card selection and advantage, and 1 Curse of Searing Ground as some non-basic bullying. And also prevents damage from being prevented. All right, I do need to step away for just a moment, so I'm going to pick up the Waiting on Decks text real quick, and I'm actually going to say, be right back here, and let's, I don't want to tab away from this. Let's do that. Be right back. So I will be right back. Please be patient with me. I will try not to be long. Alrighty, thank you so much for your patience. Let's get right back into it with Cool Beans' probably just don't even bother citing in Graveyard Hate. You probably shouldn't even bother, please. This looks to be... Oh, I know what this is. This is Dark Horse Victory. So we'll talk about the cards in terms of importance. Most importantly, the namesake, Dark Horse Victory. This is 2 white for a sorcery. Return target permanent card with an activated ability from your graveyard to the battlefield. You may activate its abilities this turn as though it had haste. Now, what are we returning from our graveyard to play with Dark Horse Victory, you might be asking? Well, we're looking to return Tesh, Fragmented Founder. This is an 8-mana, colorless, 6 loyalty planeswalker. When Tesh enters, you exile all double-faced non-land permanents, so any sort of incidental double-faced value that they might that people might be running gets bullied out of the board with Tesh. If you're on Ominous Frogs, be gone. Someone finally brought DHV to a GP. It has been a full year since DHV made it to a GP, but it is finally back. So Tesh has a +2 to deal 3 to any target and you gain 3 life, a -3 to have each opponent discard 2 cards and you draw 2 cards, and a -5 for each opponent choose up to 1 target non-land permanent that player controls and gain control of those permanents. All 3 of Tesh's modes are available the turn that you cheat him into play off of Dark Horse Victory. In addition to getting to cheat Tesh into play off of Dark Horse Victory, there is also the option to cheat in a Cosmic Lotus. 7-mana legendary artifact. When it enters, you gain 7 life. You can tap it for 3 mana of any one color and pay 3 to tap it to draw 3 cards. Both of these are really solid in their own right. Tesh is just an absolute nightmare once it hits the table. Yes, you can have it -5 and then just die to a Stiff Breeze, but that Stiff Breeze also has to deal with the fact that you just stole the best thing on your opponent's board. And the other 2 modes are absolutely annoying as well. There's a very spiteful character and so very spiteful abilities. And then Cosmic Lotus helps you jump up to reasonably casting all of these higher end spells and buying you a ton of time in the process. Which is just a very strong pairing overall. But that is not all, because you're going to have to get something into your graveyard when Dark Horse Victory is your primary way to scam your opponents out of the game. So good thing that Shigani Manor Burns not only gives you a treasure to cast Dark Horse Victory on turn 3, but also lets you discard a card from your hand on your 3rd turn if you curve this out on 2. Shigani Manor Burns plus Dark Horse Victory is just such a strong pairing. I think this is one of the cards that does the most for making Dark Horse Victory a reliably strong plan overall, because this does both the acceleration to DHV and the discard to enable. This is just such a strong pairing. And Shigani Manor Burns absolutely just works as a fair card as well, because one of the things that this deck can do is, outside of the scamming Dark Horse Victory component, this deck can just play a fair game. So there's a playset of Offset Daemon to just kind of put some 3/2s in play, start swinging at your opponent, gain some life over time, and if your opponent kills these, you just get to rebuy them with subroutines. There's 3 copies of Overrule Will and 4 copies of Fateful Ascent, so just really strong interaction. At sorceries, we've got a playset of Stargazing, which is also really good for teeing up a Dark Horse Victory. You can discard your reanimation target to Stargazing while getting to bank a 2nd copy of this. There's 3 copies of Unstable Experimentation, similar value. You get to draw a card, and then you can discard a card or Surveil 1. If you just choose to discard a card, then Unstable Experimentation can deal 3 damage to something. So this can draw you a card and convert your reanimation target into 3 damage to remove something, which is really nice. There's a pair of Deafening Clarions as the board wipe of choice here, and 1 Beyond Comprehension as an additional sweeper up at the top end. And then one last little non-land card here, 1 copy of Aldegar of Path Unwoven. Not really something you're looking to get back with a Dark Horse Victory by any means, but this is a 3-mana planeswalker with 3 loyalty, +1 to discard a card, then draw a card. If you're empty-handed, that just draws you a card, which is pretty nice. -2 deals 3 to any target, which is just generally really strong. And if you have 6 or more loyalty counters on Aldegar, you can go ahead and just fire off this 0 ability, make him a 6/6 dragon with indestructible and flying. He is no longer a planeswalker, he's just a creature, so damage no longer causes him to lose loyalty. Exile is the only way to get rid of him. Or bounce, I guess. But yeah, Aldegar, pretty solid planeswalker that's not seen a lot of play. 23 lands here. There is a playset of Primal Fisher with 2 of each basic. There's 3 Silent Lakefronts. This is an uncounterable counterspell if you choose to channel it in the later turns of the game. Removal Walker that can set up a Dark Horse seems pretty good to me. Yeah, that is one of the things that's really nice about Aldegar. You can down tick, deal 3 to something, and then the following turn, +1, discard a reanimation target, and then pay 2 white to Dark Horse Victory, whatever you just discarded. So yeah, Aldegar is really nice. So 2 of each basic, 3 Silent Lakefront for Primal Fisher. There are 3 Frostfire Geysers, 3 Spiraling Canyon, and 2 Pool of Light. Not actually running the 6 copies of a white check land for the Dark Horse Victory, prioritizing blue for the turn 1 Stargazing. Or not even turn 1 Stargazing, you can't turn 1 Stargaze. I'm guessing that this is instead early blue for Overrule Will, is the only thing I can think of. Very interesting. And then 2 copies of Misty Peak as additional blue-red sources. So white is the least prevalent color in the mana base here, which is awkward when you have a double white card as your like key payoff. But we'll have to see if that winds up mattering in any capacity. Sideboard here is mostly just general sideboard stuff, though there is 1 additional flex target for Dark Horse Victory. We'll talk about that first. It is Sylvia, the Rewoven Oath, not a card you're typically casting, though if you have a Cosmic Lotus in play, you can cast her. 6 mana, 5 loyalty Flash Planeswalker. As long as she entered this turn, you can activate her abilities at instant speed. +2 to untap up to 3 target permanents and gain 3 life. -2 to make a 4/4 Angel with flying. -4 to have each player choose a creature they control with the greatest power among creatures they control and destroy all other creatures. Sylvia's pretty good against smaller go wide decks, can good in like sort of mid-rangey situations as well. If your opponent's just swinging in 1 mid-sized creature, you just throw a 4/4 blocker in front of it. You can even, if you have Cosmic Lotus and you're casting Sylvia off of that, you can untap up to 3 permanents, being Cosmic Lotus and 2 lands, and refund 5 mana. If you're Dark Horse Victorying Sylvia into play, you can untap 3 lands and still hold 3 mana up for Overrule Will or Fateful Ascent, or you just like follow up with an Aldegar as well. It can be pretty nice. Otherwise, there's 3 Hellion Spire as Graveyard Hate, 2 more copies of Aldegar, I'm assuming just for grindy matchups where you feel like you might want this, or if you want another, bolt effect, can also be good there. 2 copies of Negate, I'm assuming for more controlling matchups. 2 copies of Deafening Clarion for more creature-centric matchups. Similarly to more copies of Beyond Comprehension. And then for the really grindy matchups, there are 3 copies of Siscall. Alrighty. Very cool to finally see DHV back in the format. We'll have to see if Tesh causes problems. Up next, Panders, we are at your deck. You have gentrified Kumrock's deck. This is Abzan. So this is black-green mid-range, tossing some white mana in here. So this is Abzan mid-range. We got Huskforger Acolyte as a playset, Exorcist of Errors as a playset, Exultant Shepherd as a playset. We finally have seen Soya Nell Executioner, 1 black for a 3/3 legendary bird mercenary. Whenever she attacks, defending player discards a card. If they can't, you draw a card. Whenever one or more players discard 1 or more cards, you put a loyalty counter on her, and you can pay a green as a sorcery to put a loyalty counter on Soya and transform her into Soya Guild Pariah. She is a black-green planeswalker. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to her, destroy that creature. You can +1 to have each opponent lose 2 and you gain 2 life, and Surveil 2. -1 to return target non-legendary permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. And -2 to make a 1/1 black and green mercenary creature token with Death Touch. So just solid, grindy, mid-range card that can flip into a solid, grindy, mid-range planeswalker. Both sides have their own strong functionality, and because it can flip into a planeswalker, not an awful card to find if you do wind up with both copies. Similar case, we've talked about Siren before, just really strong, flexible mid-range planeswalker. Does not require you to be in a dedicated sacrifice deck to still get to do its work. There are some angels on the top end and some spirits. We talked about Exultant Shepherd. That is a spirit. Dawnhymn Herald is an angel. So there are some things that Siren can't reanimate, but that's fine because this is still just spit out some 0/1 blockers, or, just sacrifice some things to pick off any problematic permanent on your opponent's board. Really strong planeswalker in that regard. Playset of Meteor Hellion making a strong statement. Mana value 3 or less cards going to be dealt with. 2 copies of Survivors of the New World. 1 copy of Sire Blade of Memory as anti-blue tech. 3 copies of Dawnhim Herald to rebuy some of your earlier creatures, get some more value out of any enter triggers from, say, a Survivors. You could rebuy Survivors and replay Survivors. You could rebuy Meteor Hellion. Not many other creatures you're looking to reprieve necessarily. But this lets you either choose one mode for this 5-mana 4/4 flyer, or choose 2 if you reprieved something. You can make 2 1/1 soldiers, exile target creature with power 4 or greater, or have target player gain 5 life. Oh, yeah. Also, Seern, thank you for pointing that out, Panders, is also a free sacrifice outlet. You can play Survivors of the New World and immediately feed all 3 to Seern for 3 loyalty and 3 cards in hand. That could be very interesting as well. I don't know if that's going to be something you want to do too often, because this is just one of the best things to come up the board. But definitely, as we see folks turning to burn it all down, this is one of the best ways to stop a Survivors of the New World, because this does shut off the death trigger. So by that same merit, you know, Survivors just getting a way to sacrifice it with Seern is pretty nice as well. Oh yeah, you can also rebuy Femeros Redeemer at the top end here with Seern. 5-mana 2/2 Elf Warlock. When it enters, if you cast it... Oh, you can't rebuy anything with Femeros if you rebuy it with Seern, because this is a cast trigger on enter. But this is still just a really good card. 5-mana 2/2 enters. If you cast it from your hand... return a creature or planeswalker from your graveyard to your hand. Once during each of your turns, when a creature or planeswalker card leaves your graveyard, you may cast a copy of it without paying its mana cost by paying life instead. Yeah, this is a very, very, like, loopy deck in terms of just, you know, Dawnhim Herald can pick up Femeros Redeemer, which can pick up Soya, which you can make a token copy of Soya, which you can then flip and get a non-legendary permanent card back from your graveyard, like getting back another Femeros Redeemer, and then Soya gains you life, so that way you can pad your life total for your Femeros Redeemers, and pad your life total with Seern. God, this is really sweet. Hello, Francois Marion. Welcome to the stream. We are very deep, and we've still got so many decks to go. 5 instants here, 3 Twilight Ambushes, and 2 Sovereign's Executions. Dawnhim Herald brings back Femeros is what I meant. Yeah, I'm on it. Yeah, it's super sweet. 3 Twilight Ambush, 2 Sovereign's Execution, and 2 Duress to go in the main deck. 25 lands here, 4 Primal Fissure, 4 Profane Grove, 2 Forlorn, 2 of each path, 2 of each Forest and Swamp, 1 Plains, and it looks like 3 of each non-black-green shock, and then the full playset of black-green shocks, and the full playset of Primal Fissures. Sideboard is a full playset of Purifier of Dawnbloom Grove. It can do similar things with Femeros Redeemer as Dawnhim Herald can. Though there's not many cheap things to bounce with Purifier, and I feel like for Purifier in particular, you really do want cheaper things to bounce with this. Second copy of Sire for blue matchups, 4th copy of Twilight Ambush, and the remaining copies of Duress. Full playset of Groblank as the graveyard hate of choice, and also bullying your opponent's hand in the process, and then 3 Nightfalls as the sweeper of choice. Pretty sweet. Alrighty, yeah. Some very, very creature grindy tools here. Very keen to see how this plays out. Gonna have to start moving a little bit faster. We've still got so many decks to go. Ricky is on Blue-Red Terror. This is another Is It Terror deck. We've already talked about this before. I think this actually might be card for card what we saw with Zangi's build. So this might be our first double up. Looking like it. 21 lands, 3 strangles. Yeah, this is 1 for 1. Oh no, there's a difference in sideboard. So if you want to get the full beat on what was going on here, please, by all means, check out what Zangi's deck is up to. But to summarize, playing a bunch of instants and sorceries to discount Cordelia's Ripper and Angler of the Crushing Sea. Otherwise, your other game plan is Ominous Frogs, just chipping away so much damage. Oh, there's also a change in mana base. There is 2 Glimmervale Lakes still, but there is 1 Lore Spire Bluff. as an additional utility land here. Pretty neat as well. But yeah, Glimmervale Lake can copy up Ominous Frogs. You can just Spell Sling and deal a ton of damage to your opponents. Path of Scales you can play and shoot it down with Thistral Charms, or just attack it down with Cordelia's Ripper, Angler of the Crushing Sea, and copy up all of your non-creature, non-battle spells. For a ton of value. The big changes in sideboard is there's one additional copy of Forbidden Treasure. I believe the 3 Impromptu Exit and 2 Burn It All Down and 4 Faces of the Faceless were all still true in Zangi's list. Yeah, but the electronic countermeasures was there. Oh, sorry, there was a full playset of Burn It All Down, 3 countermeasures, 1 Strangle, and 2 Forbidden Treasures. Ricky's on 3 Forbidden Treasures, only 2 Burn It All Downs, no Strangles, no electronic countermeasures. Oh, it's the one from League deck lists. Oh, I see. So 3 Impromptu Exit as anti-token stuff, and 3 Denotation Failure as just screw target Rebels player in particular. I will say, I'm going to have some words for people if Rebels was not brought to this GP. If everyone spent so many words in this first week talking about how Rebels is just the best thing to be doing, and then Rebels isn't here, I'm going to have words. I'm saying this tongue-in-cheek. If people didn't bring it, people didn't bring it. Caillou is saying some Rev players will always bring control no matter how good it is. I mentioned this earlier. We have fucking Turbo Fog. I'm not going to pretend to be super thrilled about Turbo Fog being here, but it's here. This is Bant Turbo Fog control. So this is 11 creatures here. Central Shaper we've already talked about. Playset of Sirius Agosa, an 8-mana 7/10 Rhino Spirit. The important text is not anything to do with the creature. It's Path of Endurance. Single green and single white for an instant. Prevent all damage that would be dealt this turn. That shuts off board wipes. That shuts off Strangle. That shuts off red removal in general, not just the board wipes and Strangle. But also this stops burn damage. This stops combat damage. This just means that your opponent can't kill you on the turn that you play this in most cases. There are still ways to make your opponent lose life through this, of course, but for the most part, this does check a lot of the most commonly used ways to end the game. Alongside that, we have 2 copies of Saurius Duplexy to help give some ramp with Path of Fortune. 4 mana, draw 2, may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. Also an 8-drop. The Saurius Agosa effect is when it's dealt damage, you make that many 1/1 spirits, not that important. Saurius Duplexy, different Sarius and Soreus, different words there. Saurius Duplexy is an 8-mana 8/8. When it attacks, you have up to 1 land you control become a copy of Saurius Duplexy. If it's a creature land, which I don't see any in here, but if it's a creature land that does become an attacking copy, which could be neat, but again, no creature lands in here. Oh my god, full playset of Silent Lakefront. Good lord. 2 copies of Elton on the Silent Star. Path of Stillness gets to sweep away some of the troublesome tokens and cheaper threats going around in the field right now. 2 copies of Sylvia the Rewoven Oath. We have already talked about thanks to the Dark Horse Victory deck, but it's in the main deck this time, and we're not cheating into play. For instance, there's a playset of Teeming Secrets, like we talked about earlier. This is just gets to ramp or otherwise give you some card selection. 2 copies of a Yeshi Breaks the Loops. This is 3 mana, exile all tokens, all artifact, creature, and enchantment tokens. Or you could choose 1 or more and pay mana into the X cost to exile your choice of each artifact, each creature, or each enchantment, or multiples therein, with X or less mana value. So this can just be a full sweeper at instant speed. There's also a playset of Unravel Thoughts to fight the stack, get the draw value. But this is also another way to fog your opponent. You tap all of your opponent's creatures at instant speed, and they can't hit you, which is bonus annoying. There's also a playset of Beyond Comprehension to sweep away everything on the board. Playset of In Tune to really leverage a strong mana advantage. 3 green and a blue for an enchantment. At the beginning of your first main phase, draw a card, then discard a card. So functionally adds another draw and discard on top of your draw for turn. And whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana of any type that land produced. So doubles up your mana there and gives you a bit more dig on your draws each turn. This makes it a lot easier to cast Saurius Aegosa, Saurius Duplixi, and Elton on the Silent Start. I did not mention 10 mana, 10/10 flyer. When you cast it, your opponents can't cast spells until your next turn. So this really brutal. Intune also makes it so Sylvia, you can cast and then uptick and make her mana neutral, which is really nice. And she nets you 6 mana with an Intune in play, which is really good. And then finally, a playset of Root Fossil. 1 mana artifact, pay 2, sacrifice gain to surveil 3. We talked about this earlier. Really strong, very flexible card. 25 lands here. Full playset of Silent Lakefront. Again, this is a uncounterable counterspell. Gains you 3 life in the process, but you have to pay 5 to do so. Full playset of Primal Fissures as well, and then only 6 basics. And all but 1 of the shock lands going down 1 green-white shock land here. Sideboard is 2 Heliolace Spire for graveyard decks, 3 Astraling for control matchups, 3 Asulio the Watchful Star, seemingly also for control matchups, 1 copy of Flutter as additional graveyard hate. I guess also can flitter away your own graveyard if you're just in a really grindy matchup. Full playset of Fateful Ascent for some additional removal, and 2 copies of Golden Bloom of the Silenced for some flexible answers, as always. Yeah, this is... Oh, God. Not going to pretend to be excited about Turbofug, but it's here. Oh, boy. Yep. That's Turbofug, all right. Well, Time Spiraled had to dip out for folks who weren't here when he was here. But Time Spiraled is on Mono Red a la Kumrock. So we talked about Kumrock's Mono Red, quote unquote, Mono Red deck earlier. Very much the same deck. Looks like some changes here. It looks like no Brazen Burglar in the main, but 1 flaw in the system in the main, which is very interesting because your flaw in the system in the main with 13 non-basic lands, which is a real statement to be making that you're not concerned about opposing aggression. But yeah, I mean, like 12 1-drops, 9 2-drops, and then Fabricated Anomaly to top it out, and then 12... Oh, wow, also Magma Flow instead of Advance of... what was the other burn spell here, actually? Let's go up to Kumrock's version real quick. Coordinated Shot was the other burn spell here. Okay. Yeah, so instead of Coordinated Shot, we're on Magma Flow. So giving up the flashback cost to break up the mana payments over 2 payments rather than having to do so 2 mana right then and there. So you can just sort of weave this into turns more comfortably and then pop it when you need to. Or you can pay 1 in a red once it's in play and discard a card to just draw 2 cards while sacrificing it. Otherwise, there's the 2 Crypt Festivariums, the 11 duels to name blue-red, or just get like blue-red mana, and then 10 mountains because there are the playset of Advance of Rune and Whisper in the sideboard to get a bit of rebuying, or sorry, pushing out big opposing creatures that you can't deal with out of play, rather. Profane Invoker in the sideboard, I don't believe was in Kumrock's list. Let me double check. No, it was Crumbling Tower was the card advantage card of choice. So that's also something that's different from Kumrock's list. Profane Invoker here. 3 copies of Brazen Burglar, and then 4 copies of Advance of Fire and Faith. Up next, we have Volt Switch back in the field with Lesbian Vampire Polycule with Dawnsworn Survivor in the chair. Love to see it. This is a black-red Vampire Looters deck, taking advantage of some of the strong Kindred tools like Indulgent Patrician and Olivia Sanguine Ripper. Plus, Dawnsworn Survivor. Every time you cast your second spell each turn, you get to pick this up from your graveyard to your hand, so you don't need any ways to cast it. In fact, there's a playset of Temple of Origins that you're going to name Black-Red on to ensure you can't cast Dawnsworn Survivors. But you don't need to, because this thing just picks itself up every time you just cast your second spell, and you've got ways to gorge. So starting out at the bottom of the curve is just Covetous Neonate. 1 mana 1/1 has haste, +1/+0 and haste as long as there's an instant, sorcery, or vampire in your graveyard. So it'll often just be a 1 mana 2/1 with haste in like mid to later turns of the game. When it dies, you create a blood token. There's Envoy of the Red Court as one of the other ways to pay off vampires. 2 mana 2/2 ward, pay 2 life. Your other vampires get +1/+1. Catabolist as a 3 mana 2 mana 3/1 vampire warlock. When it dies, you make a subroutine named Tick with whenever this route runs. Each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Then you can pay 1 and a black and return it from your graveyard to battlefield tapped if a card left your graveyard this turn. Indulgent Patrician at 3 mana. 1 black for a 3/2 Vampire Noble. When it enters, you may have target player discard a card. If you discard a card this way, put a +1/+1 counter on each vampire you control. And whenever a player discards 1 or more cards, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So this can allow you to put another bit of antheming all of your vampires and just ping your opponent each time you gorge. Olivia's going to let you gorge a lot. 4 mana 3/2. Whenever a vampire you control attacks, you may have it gorge. And it's also a flyer with haste. Important to note, gorging requires you to sacrifice another creature or discard a non-land card, which is part of why Dawnsworn Survivors is so important, because otherwise you eventually bleed out of non-land cards in your hand as you just keep digging and digging and digging and replacing cards in your hand with lands. But yeah, Dawnsworn Survivor really helps mitigate that. And then Cordelia's Ripper, if you are going to be digging really deep, discarding a lot of cards over time, Ripper tees you up to get a really cheap Ripper really fast. And this is a hell of a card to get into play really cheaply. We are seeing a lot of this out of the Terror decks, but this is going to be a deck that leverages the Vampire text on this card pretty reliably as well. And there are 14 instants and sorceries as well to discount this. Full playset of Sovereign's Execution as the removal of choice. A full playset of Bleeding Tithe here. 1 single red mana for a sorcery that adds red and creates a blood token. So this allows you to tee up the Hasty Covetous Neonate on turn 1. Sets up a blood token so you can discard a Dawnsworn Survivor or other card to tee things up. And you can even flash it back later on in the game for a single black while exiling a vampire card from your graveyard, letting you filter a black into a red. And, you know, maybe allowing you to bring back a Catabolist or, you know, get one of the 2 spells for turn to tee up a Dawnsworn Survivor, or even just set up and then pay for a blood token to dig a little bit deeper. 2 copies of Claret Ascendance as more removal. 1 mana sorcery. Deal 2 to any target. If it would die this way, exile it instead. And you can pay 2 and a red and exile it from your graveyard to have target creature you control gorge as a sorcery. Full playset of Manifest Not, really also leveraging gorge in a really fun way. 3 and a black for a sorcery, costs 2 less to cast if a player discarded a card this turn. You draw 2 and have each opponent lose 2 and you gain 2. Going to be pretty easy to have a player discard a card as you're gorging, though a lot of your gorge effects do come specifically from Olivia. This is really the only thing in the... that and Claret Ascendance really are the only ways you're gorging. So going to be kind of dependent on those to really get the most out of this effect. Out of this cost reduction, rather. And then full playset of Feasting Ceremony, 1 and a red enchantment. Whenever a vampire you control enters or you discard a card, it deals 1 to each opponent. That can really snowball out of control alongside Indulgent Patrician. You can also pay 1 and a red and exile 3 cards in your graveyard, only during your turn, to make a 1/1 red vampire token with haste, which also then would deal 1 damage to each opponent. Really scary in multiples. This is true for a good handful of these cards, though. So 21 lands here, getting to leverage some of the dig to help mitigate the 21 lands, being a bit low. 2 of each, Desolate Cemetery and Pinnacle. So we've talked about these each before. Rebuy creatures or planeswalkers, deal 3 to target player or planeswalker. 3 of each basic, 3 Primal Fisher, 4 Temple of Origins, and 4 Marzella's Sanctum. A black-red duel. You may have it. You may behold a vampire as it enters to have it enter untapped. And sure enough, there are a lot of vampires in this deck. I believe, specifically, there are 18 vampires. So if you have 1 in hand or in play, you get to have this come untapped, rather, which is pretty nice. Sideboard is the last Dawnsworn Survivor, the last Cordelia's Ripper, 3 copies of Burn to Obscurity to deal with some 4 toughness problems, or just push 4 damage to the face. The remaining 2 copies of Claret Ascendance, 2 copies of Psionic Backlash as some small creature checks. -1/-1 until end of turn for each non-land card discarded from the discard to draw 2. This can even just be 2 mana draw 2 if you are hellbent after casting this. 3 copies of Verdant Radiance, 2 and a red to either untap target creature and get an additional combat this turn, followed by an additional main phase, or destroy all artifacts with mana value 3 or less. And then finally, go blank. Just good graveyard hate, good hand rip. Pretty cool. I'm a little wary of just how light on gorging this deck is outside of Olivia, but Olivia is a lot of gorge power. And there are some like incidental blood tokens that you can pitch Dawnsworn Survivor to between Covetous Deonate dying and Bleeding Tithe making blood tokens. And Clara Descendants in a pinch. So it's not impossible for Dawnsworn Survivor to get to do some real good here. It just might be a little clunky sometimes. Provocative is on Naya Revolt once again. We are getting up towards the end here. I think we genuinely did not have a single Rebels deck. Naya Revolt once again. So Prov has kind of become known for Naya Revolt of the Palace at this point. It used to be mono green mono green Stompy, but now it is full Naya Revolt. Prov, I printed a 3-mana 4/4 and a 4-mana 4/4 with haste in green just for you, and you're playing non-mono green Stompy? I'm disappointed. Playset of Husk Forger Acolyte on the start of the curve, followed by Dark Thicket Howler as your only 2-drop, it looks like. And then a whole bunch of 3-drops. Hope's Trail Ranger, we've already talked about. We've also talked about Fabricated Anomaly. We've also talked about Rosen Clad in Guilt. We have not talked about Ironback Tyke. 1 a red and a white for a 3/3 dinosaur. When it enters, you may search for a basic mountain or plains and put it into your hand. Then you can pay 2 a red and a white and have any number of target creatures you control have base power and toughness 3/3 until end of turn. Then if you have 7 or more permanents with activated abilities in play, you transform it into a 7/7 with Vigilance and Trample with the same activated ability, though it sets the creature's base power and toughness 6/6 until end of turn instead. This is a really strong mid-range tool, especially backed up with Rosen, Fabricated Anomaly, Hope's Trail Ranger. The biggest pain point, I think, for me is that Rosen can't be followed up with most of these other 3-drops because they're double-pipped. So turn 4 or turn 3 with a Husk Forger or Dark Thicket Howler in play, you can't go like Rosen into Ironback Tyke, or you can't go like Rosen into Hope's Trail Ranger. But you can go for Rosen into Fabricated Anomaly, which is nice at least. And then Penwrath Dispatcher at the top of the curve just adds a lot of consistency. You can go dig for any creature mana value X or less and put it into your hand, or put a creature with mana value X or less from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. Each mode you choose, X is based on the number of currently attacking creatures, including Penwrath Dispatcher, who must be attacking for that trigger. And 4/4 for 4 with haste. 4/4 for 4. 3 Strangles and 3 foreign encounters for the sorcery spot. Foreign encounter, 3 mana. You get to look at the top 6 cards of your library, put a creature with mana value 3 or less into play, with an additional +1/+1 counter, and the rest go on the bottom, and has cycling for a red or a green. 3 Sanctum of Repression as an enchantment removal spell alongside the Strangle, and 3 Revolt of the Palace at the top of the curve. 23 lands here. There is a playset of Heart of the Glade, and then playsets of all green shocklands, none of the red-white shocklands, so really emphasizing turn 1 Husk Forger Acolyte, though Heart of the Glade does not cast a turn 1 Husk Forger. 4 copies of Primal Fissure, 3 of each Forest and Plains, and 1 Mountain. Sideboard here is 2 copies of Melon Defense Attorney, 1 more copy of Strangle to round out the playset, same with Sanctum of Repression, full playset of Pick Your Poison, first time we're seeing that here, having each opponent sacrifice an artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying of their choice for just a single mana at sorcery speed. Playset of Archival Storage as the graveyard hit of choice. I'm a little surprised not the Lay Pillar, given that it's a hit off of Revolt of the Palace, but certainly does its own strong functionality with some of the graveyard tools running around. And then Astral Displacer as a 3 of to just kind of name specific problem spells and strand them in the opponent's hand. Yeah. I will say my biggest concern is like Hope's Trail Ranger Concord seems a little tricky here. You've got Fabricated Anomaly as your only way to make artifacts. And you kind of need to do that, plus have Revolt or Sanctum in play to have Hope's Trail Ranger be Concord enabled. Otherwise, this is kind of just really dependent on Husk Forger and Dark Thicket Howler to help you jump up the curve. But I mean, like, Rosenclad and Guilt is nuts. Penwrath Dispatcher is pretty great. Ironback Tyke's pretty great. Fabricated Anomaly's pretty great. Hope's Trail Ranger's still really good. Foreign Encounter's great. Sanctum's great. Revolt's great. Like, this is just really strong mid-range tools. And this beats down really fast. PTM is, I believe, our third player on Blue-Red Terrors. Big differences here. Same mana base, roughly same mana base. I believe there might be some differences, but for the most part, same spell base for sure. Similar mana base. Big notes here are sideboard. We've seen kind of a split. There's the 2 Forbidden Treasures, 2 Denotation Failures, 3 Impromptu Exits, 2 Burn It All Downs, 3 On Top of the Worlds. First time we're seeing this card here. 2 and double blue for a sorcery. Choose a creature, return the rest to their owner's hands. Major contribution is the sideboard. Yeah, I can see that. Very fun include. Very good against these go wide decks. One thing that is true of Burn It All Down is that while it's very good against some of these go wide decks, it really struggles as the anthems build up. And of course, Westvale Induction is a really strong way for the go wide decks to get out of control pretty quickly. So Burn It All Down can deal with the early boards, but On Top of the World is how you clear those boards once a couple Westvale Inductions have flipped. And you can choose one of your own creatures to keep it in play. This can also just mean that if you have like an Angler of the Crushing Sea in play, and like a Cordelia's Ripper, if you're at 6 mana, on Top of the World, choose your Angler, bounce everything else, clear all blockers off the board, then replay your Cordelia's Ripper, swing 10, or swing 8, deal 2 to the opponent, rather. Can be really good to clear out the board in a pinch. 1 copy of Curse of Searing Ground as well to bully some of the non-basic enjoyers, and 2 copies of Faces of the Faceless rather than the full playset. Crush Castles is on seemingly an unchanged green-white Honesty deck from the builds we have seen Crush playing in the past. I don't know if Crush is aware of the change to Honesty, but I do think this does still do a lot of really good things for this strategy. So this is a green-white go wide tokens deck, not leaning on any new cards. We're not going to see any new Valir or Innistrad cards, at least in the main. I do see something in the sideboard, but yeah, so Resolute Reinforcements, 2 mana 1/1, make another 1/1 at instant speed. Faithline Marshal, 3 mana 2/3 with flash. Whenever you cast your first spell each turn, you make a 1/1. Whenever you cast your second spell, make a tapped everywhere token. It's all basic land types. Commander of the Vow, 3 mana 1/1, make 2 1/1s, and whenever your token you control deals combat damage to a player, you put a counter on it. Instants are a playset each of Fateful Ascent for removal and complementarity to really push as wide as possible. Sorceries are a playset of The Ruins Awaken to push wide, Magical Leaves, which can push wide and also gain you a bunch of life, and Rowdy Mob. Okay, my apologies. There is a new card in the main. I did not catch the Rowdy Mob. Rowdy Mob is 2 a green and a white for a sorcery that makes 2 1/1 white citizen creature tokens, then makes 2 weapon tokens and attaches 1 to each of those creatures. So it makes 2 2/2s functionally, and if either of those die, you still get to keep the equipment tokens around and move them to other creatures for 2 mana. Not the card I was expecting to see here out of either of the new sets. Not a card I really expected to see any GP plays. There's a lot of cards from Valir that I have not seen so far. I did not expect Rowdy Mob to get registered over a bunch of them, so that is very fun. And then playsets each of Advance of the Sainted March, for obvious reasons, and the new change to Honesty. So this is not going to reward you for going wide in the same way that it used to, but whenever a non-token creature you control enters, you'll get to make an additional 1/1 soldier. So Resolute Reinforcements becomes 3 1/1s, Faithline Marshal immediately makes a 1/1 as well, and Commander of the Vows quartet of 1/1s for 3 mana by that point. Also, whenever you attack, tap target defending permanents defending player controls, and it loses all abilities until end of turn. Can make it easier for your wide board to punch in. Though without the old version of without the old version of Honesty, rather, this deck is going to really struggle to push a lot of damage with each creature in the same way that it used to. It's kind of leaning on just Commander of the Vow for that. Otherwise, pretty unchanged mana base: Temple of Origins, Thicketed Path, Primal Fissure, and 4 of each basic. Sideboard is where a lot of the changes come beyond Rowdy Mob. 2 copies of Cathar's Charm, flexible enchantment removal, small tapped creature removal, and Graveyard Hate. 3 Renounce the Worldly is one that's already been around for a little bit. 2 mana artifact or enchantment removal, and you make a chart token. 2 copies of Constrict to counter an activated ability from a non-land source. This is a way for green-white to deal with, without having Graveyard Hate, deal with, deal with Dark Horse Victory, I guess. You can counter the loyalty ability from Tesh. I don't know how often that's going to come up, but it's very funny if it does. 3 copies of the new Crofter's Charm. 1 and a white instant destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. Make a 1/1 human and a weapon token, or gain 4 life. 3 Guardian's Charm. 2 and a white to choose 1 at instant speed. Exile a non-land permanent with mana value 4 or less. Give a creature +1/+1 for a strike and lifelink until end of turn, or return an instant or sorcery to its owner's hands, so you can disrupt the stack a little bit. And then finally, 2 copies of Crucible Burning Sun as Graveyard Hate. Up next is Epid's, you're not going to believe it, it's Prowess. Blue-red, not going to believe it. This is very similar to something we've seen CFT Sock having played a lot. We've seen 4 Cascade Channeler, 1 Emblazoned Prophet, 4 Dream Physicians do a lot of work in CFT Sock's hand the last 2 months. This is now also integrating 2 Ominous Frogs into the main. There's 1 copy of Flutter, 3 Shocks, playset of Discerns. Wow, Shock and not Blade Flourish. Interesting. I wonder if that's just a case of not being aware of Blade Flourish. 1 Dream Snare, 3 Lunar Awes, playset of Stargazing, 3 Realm Reaps, playset of Advance of Rune and Whisper, playset of Research Grant. So very similar to the things we've seen CFT Sock playing over the last 2 months, just not playing Clash at Mistrit Vale in the main anymore, because that is a lot worse than it used to be. But still probably a pretty good card. Mana base is 1 Lorespire Bluff, 1 Rousing Path, playset of Misty Peak, playset of Temple of Origins, playset of Primal Fissure, 1 Mountain, 7 Islands. Sideboard here is 2 copies of Flutter to go with the 1 in the main, 1 additional copy of Dream Snare and Lunar Awe, 2 copies of Negate, 2 copies of Saboteur's Immolation, 2 copies of Strangle, 1 additional copy of Realm Reap. Sorry, we didn't talk about the Realm Reap. This just is some additional dig. Advance of Rune Whisper we've talked about. Research Grant I've talked about outside of it appearing in any decks. Clash at Mistrit Vale is a lot worse than it used to be, but can still give your creatures prowess, can still make a couple soldiers if you can deal 1 damage to it, and can stun down a couple non-lane permanents if you can defeat it. And then Darkstar Severance as a late game grind tool. Oh my god. I think we just straight up don't have rebels in this field. Flatty Peoples, would you like to buy a cemetery? This is, wow. Oh, I know what this deck is. This is Gatander Wildlanders. This is a Naya Wildlander deck. Gatander Wildlander is 3 mana for a 2/3 human ranger. When it enters or attacks, you make a tapped treasure token, and you can sacrifice 3 artifacts or enchantments as a sorcery and pay a green to make a 4/4 green bear creature token. So to go with Gatander Wildlander, this is a deck built around putting some trinket tokens into play and then feeding them to sack engines. Hope's Trail Pilgrim is 2 mana for a 1/3 that makes a treasure on enter. Cash Thrasher is a 2 mana 2/2 with haste. As long as it's your turn, it has first strike. Sack a memory when you go to combat, and whenever it attacks, you cash the top card of your library into a memory token, which is an enchantment. Venture Capitalist can go search up artifacts from your deck, exile it, and then shuffle. You can play them this turn. You can tap and sacrifice an artifact to add 1 mana of any color. We talked about the Gatander Wildlander already. Arcade Junkies is 3 mana for a 2/4 that makes a treasure on enter, and whenever you sacrifice an artifact or enchantment, it gets +2 power and trample until end of turn. 3 copies of Fabricated Anomaly also makes a token. We've talked about a fair bit. And 1 copy of Survivors of the New World, seemingly the only use for white mana so far. There's also 1 Fateful Ascent. But that seems to be it. Just 1 Fateful Ascent, 1 Survivors of the New World in the main, and seemingly some sideboard tools from there. Playset of Strangle here. 1 copy of Burn It All Down. Full playset of Harvesttide Procession, which I believe we've already talked about earlier. And then 2 Unmarked Headstones as the 1 artifact that you're searching up with Venture Capitalist. 0 mana Clue. You may exile target card from a graveyard when it enters. You can pay 2 and sack it to draw a card. And you can exile it from your graveyard for 1 mana to exile a card from a graveyard. So this can be found with a venture capitalist and just put an artifact into play immediately for free off of the venture capitalist, which is really nice. It can be some graveyard hate off of the capitalist as well. Very nice incidental graveyard hate, something we've talked a lot about tonight. And can also just cycle itself in a pinch or sacrifice to the venture capitalist for mana. Mana base here is pretty simple. 1 plains, 3 of each other basic, full playset of Primal Fissures, full playset of each red-green dual besides... Oh, no, not even besides. Just full playset of Urban Jungle, full playset of Meandering Path, full playset of Flourishing Crevasse. And then 1 Ardent Rise here as well. ERR fetch lets you have one of your creatures bite something while getting +2/+0 until end of turn. Can clear a troublesome blocker out of the way. Sideboard here is 3 Ayeshi Breaks the Loop, leaning on the White Splash as well as the treasure tokens from Katander Wildland, Arcade Junkies, and Hope's Trail Pilgrim, and the mana fixing from Venture Capitalist to try and make this a more reliable green, white, and a blue. We've talked about this otherwise already. It seems like it's going to be here to try and bully bully token decks for the most part. Though choosing enchantment and just exclusively exiling enchantments could have some real use in the field as well. Stellar Flare as cheap removal alongside the Strangle. Burn It All Down as the sweeper of choice to go with the 1 in the main, full playset overall. 2 Golden Bloom of the Silenced, 2 Crucible of the Burning Sun, each we've talked about already, and 1 Atomic Core as well. And the nice thing about all these artifacts is you can find them with Venture Capitalist in later turns. We are almost across the finish line here. We have Raboka's Witchery. Only 2 Voice of the Fallen Covenant in the creature base. Otherwise, this is an instant or sorcery Spellslinger deck to set up Witchery. This is a blue-black hybrid black enchantment. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So similar to Clash at Mistrit Vale, this is going to give all your creatures functionally prowess. And at the beginning of each end step, if you spend 4 or more mana to cast instant and sorcery spells this turn, you create a 4/4 black horror creature token. So if you can spend 4 or more mana to cast instant and sorceries on your turn and your opponent's turn, that's going to be 2 4/4s per turn cycle. There's also 3 Pact Beyond Deaths we've already talked about, but let's talk about these spells. 3 copies of Erase from Existence is a 2-mana bounce spell, and if you've got 4 or more instants and or sorceries in your graveyard, you can instead have it put the creature on the top or bottom of its owner's library. They get to choose, but it's a really strong bounce spell overall. For any non-land permanent as well. 3 copies of Hang as the 2-mana removal spell of choice, trying to leverage Voice of a Fallen Covenant and Witchery for discounting this. Or sorry, for corrupting this, rather. I didn't talk about Voice of the Fallen Covenant, by the way. This is 3 mana for a 2/3 Horror Warlock with flying. Does not actually do anything on its lonesome. Really needs you to have 2 Warlocks to actually do work. But instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each other Warlock you control, and whenever another Warlock you control attacks, you may exile an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard and cast a copy of that card. You still pay its costs. So anyways, we talked about Hang. Addled Psyche is a new card. Blue and a black for an instant that lets you choose to exile a spell with mana value 2 or less, a creature with power 2 or less, or a planeswalker with 2 or fewer loyalty counters on it. There is 3 Unravel Thoughts, 3 Beckon the Beyond, which is going to add some horrors and planeswalkers and even an Eldrazi in the sideboard to some flexibility. And if you don't wish for a card, you can just lose 2, surveil 2, and draw 2. And 3 copies of 3 Become 1. If you control an artifact, a creature with flying, a creature with 3 power, and a warlock, the spell costs 3 less to cast. Unfortunately, I don't think the 3 creatures, or a creature with 3 power is going to happen too often. In theory, if you have a Witchery in play, nope, there's no way to get an artifact in play. I was going to say, if you have a Witchery in play, Voice of the Fallen Covenant is a Warlock with flying, and 1 trigger from Witchery giving this +1/+1 makes it a Warlock with 3 power with flying, but there's no way to get an artifact in play, so... whoops. Sorry, getting too ahead of myself, but this is still 5 mana, draw 3, may cast a spell with mana value 3 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. And if you're spending 4 or more mana on this, you can put a Witchery into play and immediately get the trigger out of it after you cast 3 Become 1 in the second main phase, presumably on your opponent's second main as well. Sorceries are 3 copies of Stargazing. We've talked about enough. Playset of Nightfall, really good with Witchery because this is letting you sweep the board and then make a 4/4 horror after the fact, which is pretty nice. And then 3 copies of Collected Thoughts. First time we're seeing it. Second time we're seeing it. First time we're seeing it in a long while here. There are a good number of hits. Stargazing, of course, is just fine off of it, but Beck and the Beyond is really great off of Collected Thoughts. Unravel Thoughts, of course, as I talked about, the flexibility here makes it pretty nice off of Collected Thoughts. And the 2 drops, 2 mana instants are all pretty solid as well. And this is also 4 mana on a sorcery to trigger Witchery. Land base here is 3 Enigmatic Fen, 3 Primal Fissure, 3 Temple of Origin, 3 Chasm of the Silent Covenant, so full 3 copies of the creature land, and then 5 Swamps, 6 Islands. Sideboard here has a lot of tutor targets for that wish. Beck and the Beyond can find Voice of a Fallen Covenant number 3, so does add some inconsistency to finding this alongside your other voices. 2 copies of Frog of Eternal Gloom to bounce out something your opponent has in play to get some tempo back. 1 copy of Thing from the Depths, which is a very solid anti-control card, just bounces permanents all day long. And if it ever ends up in your graveyard, it gets to just bounce another thing from your graveyard. 1 Remnant of the Devoured Sun is a horror. If you have 7 cards from your graveyard to exile, you can cast this 7 mana 7/7 with Indestructible. Whenever it enters or attacks, you get to rebuy a card it exiled. So immediately it just cantrips while putting a 7/7 for 7 into play. Regrowths, rather, and then each turn you get to swing in with it, you get to regrow another card that it exiled. There's also Emrakul, Visage of Gora, 10 mana 10/10 that lets you exchange, lets you and your opponent exchange life totals if you choose to when you cast it. It's got Flying, Menace, and Hexproof as long as she entered this turn. And at your end step, for each opponent that lost life this turn, you may gain control of target permanent that player controls permanently. There's also 1 Ashiok, Your Worst Fear, which can tap non-land permanent and put a stun counter on it. Can go search up an instant, sorcery, or curse card, exile it, and shuffle. You can either put it into your hand or keep it in exile if your opponent chooses to let you draw 2 instead. And a -8 to control each opponent during their next turn until their second main phase. And at the beginning of that phase, they untap each land they control. And then finally, we've talked about Casimirs already. Casimirs is a very good planeswalker, especially with Beck and the Beyond. There's 3 copies of Duress, 2 Trauma Spike to strip out any problematic spell from your opponent's deck, just shut off combos, and then 2 copies of Grasp of the Elements as a big mass bounce, not even just for creatures. 3 blue, owner of up to 1 target non-land permanent puts it on the top or bottom of their library, return each other non-land permanent to its owner's hand. All right, so Raboka has been a big fan of Witchery, and we haven't seen them in a little bit, so Raboka is back in jamming some Witchery, so we'll see how it fares for them. And finally, we are finally seeing CFT Sock step away from playing blue-red tempo, blue-red prowess, to play Sultai. So this is a toolbox deck leaning on Shape of the Pattern. A lot of 1-drops in here. A lot of 1-ofs in here, rather. We are seeing 1 copy of Blightstalker at the bottom of the curve, alongside, at 4 mana, 3 copies of Airy Lay Fused. So this seemingly is drawing a lot of inspiration, specifically from Wilderness Reclamation style decks, trying to lean on Airy, being a Wilderness Reclamation when you have Ancient online. So if you can have Ancient online, Airy gets to untap your lands at your end step, and you can cast spells as though they had flash. So Blightstalker, pretty good early turn, just good graveyard hate. Omen Mare, we've talked about already. Meteor Helen, we've talked about already. We've talked about Warden of Depths, which is another way to play cards at instant speed and lets you pay 2 less mana for your first spell during each of your opponent's turns. Aspis Venethir, we've talked about, I believe, already. -2/-2 to all creatures until end of turn. 7 mana 7/6 when it attacks up to 1 target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. Belianos Cressetus we have not talked about. Single blue Path of Brilliance for an instant to bounce something. Bounce a creature you don't control to its owner's hand. And then it's an 8/8 for 8 later on that gets to bounce creature defending player controls to its owner's hand whenever it attacks. And 1 Asulio the Watchful Star, double blue for a negate that banks a 10 mana 10/10 Dragon Spirit with flying. And when you cast it, you get to reveal up to 2 non-creature cards you own from outside the game to put into your hand. There are 3 copies of Twilight Ambush, 2 Attuned Rebuttal, first time we're seeing this card in the field, 1 in a blue instant, counter target spell if it's a creature spell or if you're ancient. Full playset of Teeming Secrets, 3 copies of Overrule Will, and 3 copies of Hang. Hang in here is also pretty surprising. Not a lot of ways to make this ancient reliably. Airy is really the only thing you got multiples of that can kind of come on the lower end of the curve. Otherwise, Omen Mare and Meteor Hellion, only one ofs. But yeah, I guess like 5 4-drops. Hang, I guess really just making the statement of power 3 or less is the thing you're most concerned about. You don't really want to be taking the loss of life for Sovereign's Execution. Full playset of Shape the Pattern here is going to go find a creature or land card if you are ancient. Otherwise, just goes and finds basic. Eyes Gone Dark here as a 1-of to have some hand attack. 1 Nightfall as a board wipe. 1 Culling Ritual as a different kind of board wipe. Gives you a bunch of mana to try and cast Aspis Venefier or Baleonis Cressetus or Warden of Depths, I suppose, though Cressetus, Warden of Depths, and Asulio all really awkward with Culling Ritual because they require blue mana in multiple pips, and Culling Ritual cannot do that. And then 2 copies of Root Fossil, we mentioned, does help accelerate Ancient a fair bit, and has some very good late-game value. 25 lands here. We've got 2 copies of Zymoth Observatory. Enters tapped if you control a non-island land. You can pay 1 in a blue and tap it to surveil 1. Very good in something like this where Airy is going to be, untapping your lands in the mid to late turns of the game. Getting more value off of Zymoth Observatory is always nice. 10 basics here. 4 islands, 4 forests, 2 swamps. Full playset of Primal Fissures. Full playset of Lost and Founds as well. So this is going to go find islands or swamps. So these forests can't be found off of Lost and Found, but can pay 6 mana to discard it later on, surveil 2 and draw 2. And then 3 Fungal Mire, 2 Lush Oasis. So the forests make these all enter untapped. Otherwise, Lost and Found can go find you the basic you need to get each of these respective cards untapped. No painful lands in the mana base. Made a very similar call to me in that painful mana just not where you want to be right now. Sideboard is a good number of 1-ofs and 2-ofs. We got 1 Florazoa, I'm assuming just for grindy matchups where you want the mana outlet. A 2nd copy of Aspis Venefier for go wide decks, I'm assuming. Another copy of Twilight Ambush and of Tuned Rebuttal and of Hang. 2 copies of Negate. 2 copies of Duress, 2 Go Blanks, 2 more Culling Rituals, and then another card we have not seen up until now. 2 copies of Planar Archives, 2 mana artifact for 1 in a blue. You can pay 2 and tap and exile a card from your graveyard to draw a card, or pay 5, tap and exile it to take an extra turn after this one, only as a sorcery, and only if there are 5 or more cards exiled with Planar Archives. And that is going to wrap up our deck list stream. Now, this has been a lot longer than expected, so I'm not going to do the whole thing of like breaking down each matchup. If you're really curious to know my thoughts, I guess just pester me and ask me who I think might win each given matchup. But I could also just try and hit the refresh here and see if... No, people have not played yet. Wow. Well, yeah, the tournament has officially begun in earnest. I look forward to seeing where things land. I should be more surprised than I am that there's no Rebels decks, but honestly, it's pretty true to the course that people were very concerned about Rebels, so naturally nobody brought Rebels. Just a tale as old as time. So we'll see where things land. We'll see what decks rise to the top, what decks really struggle to take off. We'll see where the format develops, and if you're excited to follow along with some of these matches, I will be, of course, recording my run as usual all the way through. I have already recorded my deck tech, so you can look forward to that coming down the pike pretty soon. And yeah, it's going to be a fun first GP of the new season. It's going to be a very weird GP for me to be staring down my own cards. I talked about it a lot in the lead up last month about how excited I am to get my ass kicked by my own cards, but it's going to be really putting it into new perspective where people are going to absolutely be trying to beat me down with my own cards. It'll be very interesting to find out. So thank you all so much for tuning in. This has been a lovely, very long stream. Thank you again for watching this all the way through. Thank you again to Time Spiraled for joining us for as long as he was able to. It was lovely to have him. Please go check out his videos if you haven't already. He's been doing a ton of great coverage of League and has talked about wanting to do a lot of coverage of the GP as well. I really look forward to seeing more from Times. And Times has brought a very fun deck to the field. Very strong deck to the field. Mono red with the blue splash for Advance of Rune and Whisper seems really strong. So very excited to see where things land. Very different meta to what I was bracing myself for, but I do think that a lot of things that I was bracing myself for are kind of still here in some respect. So let me know if you are excited about the tournament, if you're playing in the tournament, how you feel about your deck choice now that the tournament has begun. And if you're not playing in the tournament, let me know what things are most on your radar, what you're most excited to see. And until the tournament begins for me and I start uploading my videos, I'll see you all in the Revolution chat. Thank y'all so much for tuning in again. This has been a blast as always. Ricky says, plug the new Cockatrice version. Yes, there is also Cockatrice 3.0. So you can update Cockatrice to the new 3.0 version. I'm not sure I will be using that right away because I tried to update my Canon client today and my computer crashed. So I might just give my computer a break and not rush to upgrade, but I will be trying to upgrade as soon as possible, as soon as I feel safe to do so. So yeah, if you are not running a machine as belabored as mine, update to Cockatrice 3.0. I did at least get to look at the new interface. It looks pretty cool. A lot of hard work has gone into that for sure. So big round of applause, big thank yous to the Cockatrice team for all of the cool updates in the 3.0 update. So yeah, hope I did a good enough job, Ricky. Sorry I can't be super proud. I don't think Cockatrice caused my computer to crash. I think my computer caused my computer to crash, but I'm just not taking any chances right now. But yeah, don't take my computer crashing as a condemnation of the new version. The new version looks sweet. I think it's just my computer being my computer. There's a reason why I don't edit my videos. My computer is creeping up on a decade old, and it is not a laptop that was meant to be used for a decade. But we make do with what we've got. All right. Hope y'all take care. Thank you again and again and again and again. This is always a blast, and it's going to be a very different kind of month for me as on the designer side of things for the first time. So getting to see my cards do some strong things is going to be a very different way to experience this month. Can't wait to experience it. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you all in the Revolution chat. Bye-bye.